out warming up, and hoping they can get a first victory, having been so close to doing so in the first game at Leicester a couple of weeks ago. Yep, play will start at 11 and we'll have live commentary on the BBC Sports app from 11 with updates into the news every half hour with you, I hope.
Sussex under pressure after D'Oliveira unbeaten 169. The first day of play was another difficult one for Sussex fans, but an entertaining one for Worcestershire supporters. First thanks to Ed Pollock's rapid 77 off 74 at the top of the order, and then thanks to Barnard and D'Oliveira's 166-run partnership. The captain unbeaten on 106 at the start of day 2, with the score 338 for 5. Sussex managed an early breakthrough though. Cox out caught behind for Grant Stewart's second after making the move from Kent. Joe Leach looked in a hurry when he joined D'Oliveira at the crease, hammering boundary after boundary to take the Pears past 350. He picked off 26 runs from 24 deliveries when his approach saw him depart, caught in the deep by Haynes off the bowling of Clark. The wicket did little to derail the Pears. They steamed on ahead towards 400 and beyond. They were going at quite some rate. That meant the captain was heading towards 150, his partnership with Baker now worth 50 off 71 balls. Baker managed to get to 43 before he fell to Rawlins, flashing a catch into the hands of Clark. Lunch taken with the score now 460 for 8, and D'Oliveira one away from 150. And the skipper wouldn't have to wait long to get to his 150. Up to the mark after the break with a single off Crocombe. He'd taken 315 balls to get there. But it looked like he might run out of time to add much more to his score. Morris was the 9th wicket to fall, caught by Rizwan off Crocombe. And it was all over soon enough. 6 off Crocombe, a final flourish from D'Oliveira, who could then only watch on from the other end as Pennington launched Crocombe high into the hands of Pujara. Worcestershire all out for 9 short of 500 runs. They'd been rampant from the off, the tone set by Pollock's quickfire 77, but the skipper had led from the front, finishing not out on 169 with 75 from Barnard, another crucial contribution. Sussex's skipper had also been their star, Haynes finishing with 3 for 50, albeit in a difficult innings for the visiting attack. But it was about to get worse for them. Ali out first ball to Joe Leach, stumps rattled, Sussex off to a horror start with the bat. Haynes played a crucial role in his side's draw with Derbyshire last week, but this time he wouldn't be able to get very far, bowled by Morris for 26. They made it as far as 64 for 2 when tea was taken. There was a long road ahead. The break was just what Sussex needed. Clark and Pujara forged a solid partnership after tea, and after 58 minutes together, they'd added 50 runs for the 3rd wicket. Pujara was carrying on his top form from last week, and once again had a big score to his name. 50 runs for the India international off 109 balls, with 2 worked off Baker into the leg side. This was much better from Sussex, the 3rd wicket worth 100 runs with 150 soon in their sights. Pujara took them there, punching Leach to the ropes off the back foot. Leach, though, struck back. Clark out caught low down by Haynes for 44. Rizwan fell to the very next ball, out for a duck, nicking through to Cox. The resistance had been broken. Leach was back with yet another wicket, his 4th. Night watchman Atkins only surviving 5 balls before he was bowled, departing with a quizzical look at the surface. Rawlins and Pujara held them off through to the close, but it had been yet another tough day for Sussex. 3 scores of naught already on the scorecard. They'll start day 3 trailing by 322 with 5 wickets in hand. Another top knock from Pujara would go a long way to helping them avoid the follow-on, a target the Pears will be determined to deny them. Sussex under pressure after D'Oliveira unbeaten 169. The first day of play was another difficult one for Sussex fans, but an entertaining one for Worcestershire supporters. First thanks to Ed Pollock's rapid 77 off 74 at the top of the order, and then thanks to Barnard and D'Oliveira's 166-run partnership. The captain unbeaten on 106 at the start of day 2, with the score 338 for 5. Sussex managed an early breakthrough though. Cox out caught behind for Grant Stewart's second after making the move from Kent. Joe Leach looked in a hurry when he joined D'Oliveira at the crease, hammering boundary after boundary to take the Pears past 350. He'd picked off 26 runs from 24 deliveries when his approach saw him depart, caught in the deep by Haynes off the bowling of Clark. The wicket did little to derail the Pears. They steamed on ahead towards 400 and beyond. They were going at quite some rate. That meant the captain was heading towards 150, his partnership with Baker now worth 50 off 71 balls. Baker managed to get to 43 before he fell to Rawlins, flashing a catch into the hands of Clark. Lunch taken with the score now 460 for 8, and D'Oliveira one away from 150. And the skipper wouldn't have to wait long to get to his 150. Up to the mark after the break with a single off Crocombe. He'd taken 315 balls to get there. But it looked like he might run out of time to add much more to his score. Morris was the 9th wicket to fall, caught by Rizwan off Crocombe. And it was all over soon enough. 6 off Crocombe, a final flourish from D'Oliveira, who could then only watch on from the other end as Pennington launched Crocombe high into the hands of Pujara. Worcestershire all out for 9 short of 500 runs. They'd been rampant from the off, the tone set by Pollock's quickfire 77, but the skipper had led from the front, finishing not out on 169 with 75 from Barnard, another crucial contribution. Sussex's skipper had also been their star, Haynes finishing with 3 for 50, albeit in a difficult innings for the visiting attack. But it was about to get worse for them. Ali out first ball to Joe Leach, stumps rattled, Sussex off to a horror start with the bat. Haynes played a crucial role in his side's draw with Derbyshire last week, but this time he wouldn't be able to get very far, bowled by Morris for 26. They made it as far as 64 for 2 when tea was taken. There was a long road ahead. The break was just what Sussex needed. Clark and Pujara forged a solid partnership after tea, and after 58 minutes together, they'd added 50 runs for the 3rd wicket. Pujara was carrying on his top form from last week and once again had a big score to his name. 50 runs for the India international off 109 balls, with 2 worked off Baker into the leg side. This was much better from Sussex, the 3rd wicket worth 100 runs with 150 soon in their sights. Pujara took them there, punching Leach to the ropes off the back foot. Leach, though, struck back. Clark out caught low down by Haynes for 44. Rizwan fell to the very next ball, out for a duck, nicking through to Cox. The resistance had been broken. Leach was back with yet another wicket, his 4th. Night watchman Atkins only surviving 5 balls before he was bowled, departing with a quizzical look at the surface. Rawlins and Pujara held them off through to the close, but it had been yet another tough day for Sussex. 3 scores of naught already on the scorecard. They'll start day 3 trailing by 322 with 5 wickets in hand. Another top knock from Pujara would go a long way to helping them avoid the follow-on, a target the Pears will be determined to deny them.
Okay, here with Brett D'Oliveira after day 2 of the game against Sussex. Brett, if you'd have been captain for the last 3 years, you'd probably got about another 5,000 runs, wouldn't you?
I doubt that, but yeah, look, long may it continue. I hope it just keeps going the way it is. It's just nice to contribute.
Do you feel different in the middle in terms of responsibility?
I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel there's an extra responsibility, but it's something that I'm not carrying all on my shoulders. I don't think there's enough good players in that dressing room that can take the weight of that.
But it has brought the best out in you. So it was about patience as much as anything, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. I thought they bowled well in periods, and it was about getting through those tricky periods. And then, when the backup bowlers came on, they didn't quite hit their lengths. It was about taking care of that, really.
You were quite a long time in the 90s last night. Did you feel pressure then, or did you just sort of think, just keep going and the opportunity will come for that 100?
Surprisingly, I was okay actually. It was difficult because they brought the field right up and they didn't give much away with the ball, so it was just about staying patient and just waiting for that right ball.
Talking of patience, the same applied really. After the early breakthrough and the second wicket, as a side today, you had to be really patient and just believe that extra breakthrough was going to come, and it did.
Yeah, exactly that. We just had a quick chat in the dressing room, and exactly what I said is that let's learn from that. Actually, it doesn't have to be bang bang bang. There will be periods where it goes a little bit flatter, and the guys are playing well. There's good players in that team, so we have to accept that. But when we do get a wicket, it's about trying to up the intensity and then really go hard and get a few more.
And Joe did that, but it was a pretty outstanding catch by Jack Haynes.
Yeah, look, I'm really pleased about that actually, because they work their absolute bums off to try and catch them in the slips, and they do it all winter and all pre-season and every day before the game. So it's great when one of those sticks. It really gives the lads a lift.
And it was real old-fashioned Joe, wasn't it, coming back, getting wickets in bursts like he does?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Joe's obviously playing with a lot of confidence at the minute. I think, you know, giving up the captaincy, it's been great for him. He can go out there and play his cricket, and it's exactly what we want.
We've talked about patience. That's what's going to be required in the rest of this game as well, isn't it?
Yeah, the wicket's not offering a great deal, but I think if we stack areas for long enough, we'll get our rewards, and we'll keep that intensity high, and hopefully we'll get those chances.
Well, congratulations, Brett. Good day for you.
Thank you.
We wondered what was happening in our first over, Brett, when all of a sudden one shot up and caught you. I mean, we thought this is great for Worcestershire.
Yeah, great for Worcester, not great for me, but no.
Yeah. Well, could happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your umpires this morning, James Middlebrook and Alex Ward. The Vice Skipper, Brett Oliveira, please welcome Worcestershire. And resuming the Sussex innings, Cheteshwar, Pujara and Delroy Rawlins.
Good morning, welcome to New Road in Worcester for day 3 of the LV Insurance County Championship game between Worcestershire and Sussex. The overnight situation here is that Sussex are 169 for 5 in their reply to Worcestershire's first innings, 491. Cheteshwar Pujara is 85 not out, Delroy Rawlins is 4 not out, and on a cloudy, overcast, chilly morning here at New Road, the attack is to be taken up from the New Road end by Charlie Morris. Morris, who he bowled pretty well yesterday. His figures so far in this innings: 11 overs, 6 maidens, 1 for 19, and he's been entrusted with the first over of the morning by the captain, Brett Oliveira. Alongside me is Adrian Harms of BBC Radio Sussex. Morning, Adrian.
Yeah, morning, Frank.
An interesting day's play in prospect.
It is, and I thought Charlie Morris bowled really well yesterday.
Well, here he is now. First ball of the day, he's in, and he bowls to Pujara, and that's outside the off stump and left alone by Pujara. Certain amount of excitement behind the wicket from the slips, the wicketkeeper, etc. But a good leave by Pujara, and I think leaving yesterday was a very, very impressive part of Pujara's approach, shall we say.
Yeah.
He left the ball really well and played very late generally, I think, so that might well be the pattern that is repeated today. Here's Morris again in, bowls, and it is again a good leave by Pujara outside the off stump. Again, a little bit of excitement behind, suggesting that it was a close call in terms of direction, but if ever a batsman knows where his off stump is, that batsman is Cheteshwar Pujara. And I think quite a lot of responsibility resting on his shoulders today.
huge amount, Frank, and particularly because we
still don't know about Tom Alsop, do we?
So I mean, Sussex could be 6 down. We're thinking he's going to bat, but how able he's going to be is another issue.
And Morris again, he's in, he bowls, and Pujara's on the back foot, and that's the first runs of the day. Lovely back foot square drive for 4 behind square on the offside, past the diving Jake Libby in the gully, and Pujara moves on to 89. He's faced 160 balls. It's been a very measured innings. He's played. The tempo of his innings has been almost sort of even throughout. There haven't been pulses and quick periods. He's just bided his time, played each ball on its merits, and puts the bad ball away beautifully, as he did there. Waits again now. A picture of concentration, a wide stance. As Morris moves in again, right arm over the wicket, bowls, and Pujara drives, and 4 more. This time less certain, but a bit of width from Morris, and Pujara gets a thick outside edge down to the vacant 3rd man boundary. So successive boundaries in the first over here. Nice start for Pujara. He's moved into the 90s. 93, 177 for 5. And Worcestershire with some work to do here if they're going to pick up these 5 Sussex wickets that remain in this first innings, and then give themselves the opportunity to enforce the follow on. Whether they would take that or not, we don't know. 177 for 5, and Morris is in again and bowls, and Pujara drives straight down the ground. Another lovely shot. It's gone past the bowler, pursued back to the boundary by Brett D'Oliveira, slides, flicks the ball back, and Joe Leach, who accompanied him to the boundary, completes the fielding. But 2 more to Pujara, so 10 off the first over so far, and still 1 ball to go. Morris's excellent figures have been dented somewhat by this over, and Pujara's moved pretty quickly on to 95. Got a double 100 in the last game at Derby, so he's a man in a rich vein of form, along with quite a few other batsmen in the country, it must be said. Been a good start to the season for the batters generally. It's been pretty dry all around the country. That might well be a factor. Here's Morris once again. He's in, bowls, and Pujara lets that go outside the off stump. End of the first over. Update coming for BBC Hereford and Worcester. We've had 1 over this morning. It was bowled by Charlie Morris from the New Road end, and Cheteshwar Pujara, who began the day on 85, has profited to the tune of 10 runs from that first over. A lovely square drive off the back foot for 4, then an edge to 3rd man, then a straight drive for 2, and he's moved very quickly on to 95. 179 for 5 is the Sussex total at the moment, with Pujara, as I say, on 95, and Delroy Rawlins, who hasn't faced a ball yet, is on 4. So the deficit is still 312. Worcester should be hoping they can wrap this innings up, but a good start for Sussex this morning. 179 for 5 after 1 over.
Yes, it is. Very overcast here, and as Frank was saying, chilly at New Road this morning. I saw Joe Leach was very busy warming up this morning. I watched him. I was having my cornflakes or Weetabix, whatever it was. I was watching Joe Leach out the window of the hotel as he was busily warming up. So he'll be prepared for this. And didn't he bowl beautifully yesterday? And right at the last half hour of the day, I mean, Sussex were going along very nicely, 155 for 2. Suddenly they were 155 for 5. In comes Leach around the wicket, bowls to Rawlins, who's solidly forward. Plays to mid-on, and there is no roll mid-wicket. I think this is an important innings for Delroy Rawlins, Frank. We were talking yesterday, I think he's in his 31st first-class match. He's made 1 century, but he averages in the very low 20s, and that belies the talent that he has. But he's got an opportunity here, batting alongside Pujara, to really get his head down here today as Delroy, and a real opportunity. Leach in and bowls, and Rawlins. Difficult to see from where we are, but the howl suggested that maybe Rawlins played at that. We're in no position to judge. We're at fine leg, wideish fine leg. We're looking over the shoulder of Charlie Morris, who's down in front of us. But the reaction of the wicketkeeper was that maybe Rawlins did play at that. He's on 4. Sussex 179 for 5. Live cricket on BBC Radio Sussex, BBC Hereford and Worcester. give you contact details in a moment, as in comes Leach around the wicket bowls, and Rawlins does let that go through to keeper Cox, and there is no run. Sussex Cricket at bbc.co.uk if you'd like to send us an email. Or you could tweet us at Frank Watson 58 or at BBC Sussex Sport or at Adrian Harms. Either of those, they'll find all their way through to us. There's a Leach in his 14th over. Those figures, 4 for 54. He was on a hat-trick as well yesterday, having dismissed Tom Clark and then Mohammad Rizwan in successive deliveries. In he comes, bowls, and Rawlins is solidly forward to a ball of full length. He plays that firmly down the ground to mid-on, and there is no run. I've no update this morning on Tom Alsop. We were told yesterday that Sussex expect him to bat, but quite how impeded he is going to be. Have you batted with damaged fingers? I'm sure you have. Damaged fingers, Frank? It depends how damaged it is, I guess.
Yeah, it does, and which finger as well, in terms of your grip on the bat, which hand, and so on. His left hand, I think, which is... He's right. He's right-handed.
He's left-handed.
No, it's his bottom hand. Oh, it's his right hand.
Yeah, it's his top. In comes Leach and bowls, and Rawlins stretches forward.
Well, that's bad news, I think, if it's your top hand, because that's the one that you know you kind of direct the bat, guide the bat the most with, I think, and yeah, it's well, it's not easy ever batting with a bruised finger. I mean, obviously, just depends how bad the swelling is and so on. You know, whether if your knuckles really swollen and you can't hold the bat very well, but I'm sure the physios will have been working hard on it.
Leach in again, bowls. Rawlins inside, plays firmly to mid-wicket, and there is no run. So an over safely negotiated by Delray Rawlins. He's placed 25 deliveries for his 4 runs, which matters not a jot. The important thing for Sussex is that he stays there. 179 for 5, maiden over from Joe Leach, 14 overs, 3 maidens, 4 for 56.
Yeah, Delray Rawlins is an attacking batsman by nature, isn't he? From what I've seen, and that maybe gives him a little bit of a problem out there, because it's not a situation where that's what's required. He's just got to hang in there, really, and particularly as long as Pujara's still at the other end. So he's, in a way, he's kind of fighting against his natural instincts, but I thought he played that over pretty well. Anyway, here's Morris to continue bowling to Pujara in bowls, and Pujara's on the back foot to a ball that's just back of a length and pushes it into the covers where Josh Baker does the fielding. Greyish morning, well, grey morning it has to be said. We had a little bit of sunshine about half an hour ago, but that's disappeared and it's chilly again. I've wrapped up a little bit warmer today. Put a bit of a bigger sweater on and so on, and we were suffering a bit yesterday afternoon.
It was cold.
It was cold, even inside. Well, we're behind glass here. Anyway, here's Morris moving in again, and bowls to Pujara, who is again on the back foot defending, pushing out again into the covers, and again it is Josh Baker coming in to do the fielding. 179 for 5. Sussex have added 10 this morning, all to Pujara, who's on 95, and still a substantial deficit, but as long as these two are there, I kind of think as long as Pujara's there, they'll feel, Sussex, that they've got a chance of getting themselves out of the hole that they were in yesterday. Morris is in again and bowls. Pujara defends on the onside this time, and to be fair, I mean, they weren't in that much of a hole, but when those 3 wickets went down in a real burst from Leach in the afternoon, and they lost 3 wickets without adding a run, you just did feel that the balance of the game tipped in Worcestershire's favour, but it can easily change, and Pujara and Rawlins obviously have gone out there this morning thinking, well, we'll just try and get through the first half hour and see where we are. Here's Morris again. He's in and he bowls, and Pujara is forward, this time to a fuller delivery and pushing it into the covers. I think it's important that you don't ever, as a side, whether in the field or batting, try and get too far ahead of yourselves. You don't go out there and say, well, let's see if we can get 300 or something like that. They'll have gone out there and they'll have said, right, first target, get through the first 5 overs. Second target, get through the first hour and then see where we are. On top of that, you've got Pujara in with a chance of 100, but he's got so many of those that won't worry him too much. Here's Morris in again, he bowls, and Pujara goes to 96, turning this one off his pads down to long leg, where Dylan Pennington does the fielding. Good throw back to Ben Cox, and the score goes to 180 for 5.
I was sort of wondering last night, Frank, as to what would happen here with Worcestershire if it came about they bowl Sussex out for less than 342 and they have the opportunity to enforce the follow-on. Whether they would do it. And I guess there's so many different factors that come into play, but not least the fact that there is, we've got 2 days left, but they won't want to take too much time out of the game, I wouldn't have thought, by batting themselves, because that could well take a session out of the game.
Morris staying over the wicket to the left-handed Rawlins. He's in and bowls, and Rawlins is forward, pushing out on the offside. Fielded by Ed Barnard. End of the over from Morris, just 1 run off it. 13 overs, 6 maidens, 1 for 30. His figures. Yeah, I agree. Had similar conversations this morning, and I think one of the factors will be how long it would take to get the wickets. So if they got them all this morning, they could easily have a little bat and get Sussex back in again tonight, and still, have 2 goes at them, as it were. But if it takes till mid-afternoon to get these wickets, and even if they were still in a position where they could enforce a follow-on, you've also got lots more overs in the legs of the bowlers, and to ask them to come straight out and bowl again might be difficult. So, as you say, lots of variables. I suspect that Brett D'Oliveira has given it some thought.
Then comes Joe Leach to Cheteshwar and Pujara. He's in and bowls, and Pujara lets that go outside the off stump, and there is no run. Total remains 185. Pujara within a boundary of his second 100 in Sussex colours. His second consecutive 100. 202 not out at Derby last week. Only made 6 in the first innings. But he's certainly made up for that second time around, and he's batted really well here. So, and a good job for Sussex that he has. He's made 96 out of 180, so the other 5 have only contributed 84. In comes Leach again, bowls, Pujara forward, plays into the back down the track. Leach gave Pujara a real stare as he picked up the ball. Pujara completely unfazed, does a little bit of gardening. 2 slips, sorry.
I was just going to say, he plays so late. I think if you were bowling at him, there are times where you think, oh, I've got through, or oh, I'm going to have a shout for LB, and then he just gets the bat down so late. They say the best players always play late. Certainly the case with Pujara.
Leach in again from the D'Oliveira end, bowls to Pujara, plays into the offside. I should say the stand, which is the Basil D'Oliveira stand. It's the Digley's end of the ground. And again, Leach fields off his own bowling, and again there is no run. Pujara was saying yesterday he has this little method, procedure that he goes through, process, where he holds the bat out. Frank was saying, I think he's just making sure his grip is correct.
Just thinking about that again, exactly that when you said that.
Leach in bowls, Pujara lets that go outside the off stump, and there is no run.
As a coach, sometimes, I'd still do a little bit of teaching. Sometimes I'll get a group of real beginners and talk about how you hold the bat. My method is an old one that was shown me by a coach a long time ago, where put the bat down on the floor between their feet and say, right, imagine it's an axe, and there's a tree on your left if you're right-handed, and you pick it up as if you're going to swing the axe, and usually if you do that you get the grip right. I'll just break off as Leach bowls this ball.
In and bowls to Pujara, then he just lets that go outside the offside. There's a howl from behind the stumps.
You've got to get those V's between your thumb and your forefinger in line with each other, really, to have a grip that works generally. And I always say, although it seems a bit pernickety to line your hand, if you're not holding it right, nothing else works. So all the other things that we say about pickup and everything else don't work. And when you watch Pujara, and when he does that, it almost looks to me as though he's absolutely checking the alignment.
Yes, I would agree.
Of his hands. And if he is, it just shows how important it is.
Leach in bowls, Pujara again lets that go outside of the off stump. So maiden over from Joe Leach. Second maiden of the morning, 15 overs, 4 maidens, 4 for 56. Pujara remains on 96, Sussex 180 for 5. It means that they've added 11 runs this morning in the, what have we had, 4 overs that have been bowled.
And going back to that, if one of those hands is just slightly wrong, just slightly too far around the handle, all the other things that we teach about the way you bring the bat down, they just don't quite work. And sometimes I suppose hands can slip, and you maybe don't even notice a fractional movement. He checks it every ball, or seems to. Here's Morris to Rawlins, the left-hander, who is forward, pushing out on the offside. Barnard fields, he's in a sort of short extra position on the catch. Rawlins, talking of hands and grip, is clearly feeling that his hands are slipping a little bit, because he's taken off his batting gloves and he's rubbing his hands into the dirt in the crease, as you see spin bowlers do quite often, just to try and dry a bit of sweat, a bit of moisture perhaps on his hands. And now he's replaced his gloves and stands again, ready, as Morris moves in. 2 slips alongside wicketkeeper Ben Cox as Morris is in, and bowls, and Rawlins drives. Well, whatever he did, it worked, because that's the best shot he's played by a long way. Lovely cover drive for 4. To be fair, it was a wide half volley from Morris, and he would have been disappointed if he hadn't got it away, but he smashed it wide of Ed Barnard at short extra, and in between Barnard and Azhar Ali, who is in a more conventional extra cover position, or maybe a little bit squarer than usual. And it's 4 runs down to the boundary down in front of us. Takes Rawlins on to 8, and the total on to 184 for 5.
The next ball is the danger ball.
Here's Morris coming in and bowls to Rawlins, who lets that go. Good delivery, actually. I think that one let it go outside the off stump, better length, and then it held its line, taken by Cox. Good leave though. Yeah, the next ball's the danger ball. Somebody asked me the other day, of all the things you've ever been told in cricket, is there one little piece of advice that you think has been more valuable than all the others? Something that maybe didn't seem so at the time, but has really, really stayed with you. And it was a difficult question to answer, really. I had a good think about it. Here's Morris again. Ball to Rawlins, who's taken on the pad. Big shout for LBW as that runs away behind square on the offside, but umpire James Middlebrook is not impressed. Signals a leg by. Both umpires wearing gloves this morning, that's how cold it is. And the total goes on to 185 for 5. And the one piece of advice that I think I settled on was when somebody said to me once, you only ever need to think about the next ball. Just the next one ball. So if it's the first ball I used to say to batsmen, if you only had to face one ball, would you guarantee that you wouldn't get out? And they said, yeah, I reckon I could face one ball. Pretty much certainly I could face one ball. Here's Morris again. Pujara lets that go outside the off stump, and I said, well, if you guarantee you can survive one ball, why should you ever get out? Why not just say I'm going to apply that level of concentration to every ball? And what I was getting at was, if you are capable of putting all other things out of your mind and focusing completely and utterly on the next ball, then batting becomes a simpler process. And I think there is something in that. So if you've hit a 4, don't let the adrenaline get to you, don't get carried away. Just concentrate on the next ball. If you've played a missed or been dropped, don't worry about it. Just concentrate on the next ball. Here's Morris in again, bowls and let go by Pujara. Again, good leave outside the off stump, taken by Cox. Decent over from Morris. One boundary off it and a single, the leg by. But at the end of it, his figures: 14 overs, 6 maidens, 1 for 34, and the Sussex total 185 for 5.
As Frank was saying, live cricket here on the BBC on a cold, blustery morning in Worcester. You can see the trees around the ground are really starting to sway in the breeze, and the umpires are well wrapped up. Charlie Morris isn't too bothered. He's running down to his fielding position down here at fine leg. He's in a short sleeve shirt, but it is a chilly morning, and those spectators that are in are well wrapped up against the elements. I think the forecast is for it to get a little brighter as the day goes on, as in comes Leach and bowls to Rawlins, who lets that go outside the off stump, and there is no run. And particularly, Frank, you're talking about the next ball with Delray. I've watched Delray Rawlings bat a lot over the last few seasons, and he can play a shot which you think is a world-class shot, and you think, wow, He really is a fine player. I remember him at Radlett against Middlesex a few years ago. He hit about 7 boundaries in about 10 deliveries, smashed the ball down the ground, but then he'll play a shot, he'll have a rush of blood. And that's the one thing that I'm sure he would admit himself he needs to get out of his game. You've got to pick the right ball to attack. In comes Leach around the wicket bowls, and he's showing good restraint here as Delray plays that into the offside. And there's no run. 8 off 31 deliveries. Sussex 185 for 5, so they've added 16 runs this morning in the 6th over. Charlie Morris looks as having a bit worn out, doesn't he, down below? He's clapping his hands.
He's a fit young man.
Yeah, I bet he is. Leach was ready to come in, but Rawlins was doing a little bit of gardening as he's in again. Joe Leach around the wicket. Oh, Rawlins takes a couple of steps down there. Now that was really odd, and I'll tell you what, Joe Leach will not like that. If anything's going to fire a bowler up, but he literally was dancing down the wicket. I mean, whether that was a pre-planned venture by Delray, I don't know. But I think there's nothing more likely to get a bowler's anger for doing that.
Don't see why he felt the need to do that. He hasn't. It's not as if he's got to disturb Leach. He's coping with him fairly well. He must have a plan.
Leach, let's see what happens here. In and bowls, and Rawlins is back on his stumps, plays into the offside, fielded in at short extra cover. I think that's Ed Barnard in there. Yes, it is. And there is no run. Yeah, I mean, maybe there is a plan. Maybe that's something he spoke. We just saw Grant Flower walking around the outfield looking very chilly. I wonder if that's something he's discussed with Grant Flower about maybe a way to play. But it was a premeditated move down the wicket.
Yeah. I can understand you doing it if you need to score runs, you need to disturb the bowler, but it's really at the moment, and with Pujara going well, all he needs to do is keep doing what he is doing, I think.
Yeah, and again there, that was interesting because Ray Rawlins wasn't ready, and Joe Leach was halfway in before Rawlins, he sort of realised Rawlins wasn't ready. And Joe Leach has now changed the field as well. He's moved his mid-wicket to a deep mid-wicket. Bit of cat and mouse going on here as in comes Leach around the wicket bowls to Rawlins, and Rawlins, well, I don't know whether he played at that or not. Very difficult to judge from him. My initial reaction was that he didn't. But
he didn't play. I've just watched the repeat. He didn't play, and it seamed back in. It was quite wide to start with. He left it, and it seamed back in and just missed the off stump. And was taken by Cox moving away to his right. It was a good leave, but it was a good delivery as well.
If anyone's trying to send an email, I've got a few email issues this morning, so if you have sent an email and we haven't read it out, apologies, but I will, when I do my update to the listeners on BBC Radio Sussex, I'll put a call in and see if we can get the computer working. Leach around the wicket bowls, Rawlins solidly forwards a ball of good length, plays into the offside. There is no run. Sussex 185 for 5. Cheteshwar Pujara will face the next over, just 4 runs away from his second century in Sussex colours. Sussex 185 for 6, Pujara 96, Rawlins on 8.
Yeah, just going back to my my one ball game theory, which players I've worked with over the years will be more than familiar with. It's about the batsman being able to clear his head and produce an appropriate response to the ball that's bowled. So if you get bowled 5 consecutive half volleys on off stump, you hit them through the covers 5 times for 4. But if you get 3 and you adrenaline's pumping and you think, I'm going to hit this next one as well, and that isn't a half volley but it's a really good delivery, then it can bring about your downfall. So you have to just clear your head completely. Slightly different in the white ball game, I think, where sometimes you're trying to dictate to the bowler a little bit, but a clear and appropriate response to the ball bowled each time is the secret to playing long innings. I think here's Morris in, and Pujara knows that secret only too well, as he's proved so much throughout this game, and again he leaves this one alone outside the off stump, and it's taken by wicketkeeper Ben Cox.
Sorry Frank, Grant Flower is actually standing down away to our left hand side down towards the hotel, just watching on from the boundary edge, so he's got a real...
He's trying to see whether it's doing anything really, isn't he?
Sure he is.
Yeah.
And probably, I'm sure Pujara doesn't need any help with his technique, but maybe Delray might just benefit from that.
Yeah. Here's Morris again. He's in. Pujara lets that go again outside the off stump. Yeah, and you know, coaches work, don't they, in different ways. He might fit. You know, you hear about football players who say that when the manager sits down on the bench or in the stands or isn't visible, they don't feel quite as motivated. And you know, it might just be that on this occasion, Grant Flower thinks that by being visible to Delray Rawlings, he's just making him concentrate that little bit harder,
quite possibly
making him think about what they've talked about before he went out. Who knows? He's sat behind the arm having a good look at it as Morris moves away from him and bowls, and again Pujara leaves alone outside the off stump. Absolutely excellent discipline from the great man, not being tempted to play at a ball that he doesn't need to play at, and Morris's method is to nag away on that line just outside off stump and wait for the mistake. And so far Pujara, who's going through his little pre-ball ritual of watching his grip, checking his hands as I speak, is not being tempted. He waits again now, and here's Morris, and this one he drives. It's a bit straighter and fuller, but it's straight to Brett D'Oliveira at mid-off.
I think Joe Leach this morning, Frank, has bowled 3 maidens on the spin from that Digley's end, and although there were 10 runs off the opening over, since then, I mean, the runs have really dried up for Sussex.
Yeah, Morris conceded 2 boundaries off his first over yesterday as well, didn't he? Once he seems to have warmed up and settled down, he's been a lot tighter. He bowls here, and Pujara gets a run this time, just tucking this one off his pads for a single. Barnard fields, and he goes to 97 off 181 deliveries, and the total to 186 for 5. It's a nice tempo, that, isn't it? 97 off 100, you know, 1 every 2 balls in red ball cricket for a batsman who's holding things together. I think that's just about right. There's different ways of playing, obviously, but I bet that's the sort of tempo that he likes to score at. Not to be calmed, but measured. Morris into the left-handed Rawlings, leaves that alone outside the off stump. End of a good over from Charlie Morris, just 1 run from it. 15 overs, 6 maidens, 1 for 35 his figures, and it's 186 for 5.
A chance for Joe Leach to bowl to Cheteshwar Pujara. I'm not sure that he's bowled to Pujara this morning. Maybe Rawlings
I think he bowled 1 over. He bowled a maiden. Yeah, he did.
So, as I say, if you've sent an email, just a reminder that we'll try and get this sorted out in a few moments. I'll disappear in a moment as well and do my update. But it is going to be Joe Leach who's going to bowl to Pujara, who is on 97.
Checking that grip.
Yeah, there he goes again. In comes Joe Leach running into bowl to Pujara, and Pujara is just forward, plays it into the offside. There is no run. You get no sense of sort of nerves or with the fact that he is just 3 away from a century. He's jumping up and down. One thing he won't be used to is the fact it is chilly today. You know, it's English conditions in April. At least it's dry, is the good news, Frank. But you see the trees around the ground as swaying around.
No flag today on the cathedral, and I'm really surprised.
I am.
Do you know why?
St George's Day.
Yeah, absolutely. You'd have thought there'd have been one up there today, wouldn't you?
Definitely, of all days. Leach in again, bowls. Pujara forward, plays to mid-wicket, fielded by Barnard, and there is no run. Yeah,
Shakespeare's birthday as well. We should try and get a few references. We got a Macbeth one in yesterday. We should try and get a few more in today, I think. Yeah.
It's strange, isn't it? Because certainly in Wales with St David's Day, there's quite a big thing made of St David's Day. But there seems to be a huge amount made of St George's Day. I don't quite know why. But as I say, the flag of St George has been fluttering away on the top of the cathedral for the first 2 days, but as Frank observes, not today. Well, not today so far. Leach in, bowls. Pujara pulls. Could this be his century? There's a good bit of fielding on the boundary. No, it's gone for 4 runs. And there's the century for Cheteshwar Pujara. Pulls that away, backward of square on the leg side. He takes off his helmet, raises his bat. First of all, his colleagues on the balcony, the Sussex balcony, away to our right-hand side. Wonderful innings by the Indian Test batsman, the second century in Sussex colours. Sussex 190 for 5.
Update coming from BBC Hereford and Worcester.
Day 3 of Worcestershire's County Championship match against Sussex at New Road.
And as you join me, Cheteshwar Pujara, the Indian Test player, has just brought up his century with a smashing pull shot off Joe Leach. 184 balls, 14 fours in the innings, and he's been very much the glue that's holding this Sussex innings together, and Worcestershire really will feel they need to remove him if they're going to make further inroads. At the moment then, Pujara is on 101, Delray Rawlins, his partner, is on 8. They resumed this morning at 169 for 5, and an untroubled first half hour really for the pair. At the moment, Sussex responding, remember, to Worcestershire's first innings, 491, are 190 for 5 in the 61st over, as that one is again let go outside the off stump by Pujara off Leach, and again let go by Pujara off Leach, and this one takes the pad, and there's an impassioned appeal from Leach, Cox and everybody else behind the stumps, because he didn't play a shot and it flicked the pad, but it was not, in the opinion of umpire Alex Wolf, going on to hit the stumps, and I think that's the right decision, even though we often see umpires tempted to give batsmen out when they're not playing a shot. My feeling looking at that one is that it didn't quite do enough to come back and hit the stumps. So I can understand why the Worcestershire bowler and fielders were so excited, but it wasn't out for me. Here's Leach again, bowls, this one straighter, and Pujara plays a very solid defensive shot. That's the end of the over. Leach looks pretty fed up with life. Really thought that was a good shout, I think, judging by the way that he appealed, but I think the umpire got it right. 190 for 5 at the end of the over. Pujara 101, that 100 coming off 184 balls, and including 14 fours, and it's been an innings characterised by watchfulness and concentration, and it's been extremely valuable for the visitors, for whom Delray Rawlins is on strike now, the left-hander facing Charlie Morris, who is in from the New Road end and bowls to it. Rawlins is forward, watchfully pushing out on the offside, resisting his sort of urges, I sense, Delray Rawlins, who tends to be a batsman that, certainly when I've watched him, likes to get on with it, but this morning very much the junior partner and very solid so far. Tall left-hander. Morris still over the wicket. Comes in now as the sun makes an attempt to break through. Morris is in, he bowls, and Rawlins perhaps plays his loosest shot of the day, as that one is angled across him and he flashes at it, and is possibly fortunate not to get a nick through to Cox, who takes it quite low down. And there's no run. 190 for 5. Smallest crowd that we've had, I would say, so far today, despite it being Saturday. Possibly because it's the chilliest of the 3 days we've had. Morris once more. 2 slips, the only catches. Comes in and bowls. Rawlins drives into the ground. Barnard at short extra cover does the fielding. So yeah, smaller crowd than we've had. First day I thought it was a particularly good attendance, but those spectators that are here, as Adrian Harms was saying, are well and truly wrapped up against the chill, but the forecast is for it to get a little bit warmer, I think, and the sun has made a welcome appearance as I speak, as Morris moves in. 4th ball of the over, and he aborts his run up. Just occasionally does that. He did it yesterday a couple of times. Just as he approaches the crease, he senses that he hasn't quite got his feet right and isn't going to hit the crease just as he wants to. So he pulls out of the run-up and makes his way back to his mark before turning again to come in now to bowl to Rawlins. He's in, and Rawlins lets this go outside the off stump, taken by Cox. Stiffish breeze from the northeast moving across the ground. Trees at the far end between New Road and the King's School playing fields, which are behind the Azhar Ali stand, bending in that breeze, and the sole remaining chestnut tree alongside the hospitality marquee here at New Road also having its leaves quite significantly disturbed. Breeze usually comes from the southwest, but its northerly direction probably explains its coldness, as Morris is in and bowls again, and Rawlins drops this one down in the crease in front of him, and Barnard just trots in from short extra cover to do the fielding. Tidy again this over from Morris, who conceded 10 in the first over of the day. 2 boundaries to Pujara, one a lovely square drive off the back foot, one an edge down to third man. But since then Morris has settled into quite a nice rhythm, and he's been asking quite a few questions of the batsmen. Both have been leaving the ball whenever they can, and it's 190 for 5 as Morris moves in again and bowls over the wicket to Rawlins, who drives loosely at this one and is again possibly fortunate not to get a nick. But 2 play and misses in that over from Delroy Rawlins against the bowling of Charlie Morris, but he survives and he's on 8 still. He's faced 43 deliveries now for his 8. Cheteshwar Pujara, who is just receiving a new pair of gloves from the 12th man and having a drink. And that small target that I talked about a few minutes ago, that the 2 batsmen might have had, let's get through the first half hour, well, they've achieved that and a little bit more, and it's prompted the first bowling change from the Worcestershire captain Brett D'Oliveira, as Dylan Pennington is introduced at the Diglis end to replace Joe Leach. So Leach out of the attack, bowled well this morning, 17 overs, 5 maidens, 4 for 60 his figures. And Pennington, who so far has bowled 9 overs, 1 maiden, no wicket for 29, comes in to the attack, and he is bowling to Cheteshwar Pujara. He's in and he bowls, and Pujara lets that go outside the off stump. Quite wide to start with, and he's been immaculate in his judgment of what to play and what to leave alone, with one exception, that being the ball in the previous over that Joe Leach bowled from the Diglis end, when he left it alone and it nipped back and took him on the pad, and there was a huge appeal, but umpire Alex Wharf deciding it hadn't done quite enough. Here's Pennington again, bowls straighter this time, and Pujara just covers up and plays defensively out on the offside, just half forward really. He's dropping it down on the offside, and Azhar Ali, hands firmly in his pockets now, having done that bit of fielding and thrown the ball to D'Oliveira at mid-off. Not used to playing in quite such chill conditions as this. 190 for 5 as Pennington turns again and bowls to Pujara, who steers this one back up the pitch to the bowler, and again no run. I remember thinking last year when we started the season with a couple of very, very chilly games, notably I remember at Derby, it was ice cold, and poor old Alzari Joseph, who was Worcestershire's overseas player at the start of last season, I think he really couldn't quite believe that he could play cricket in such Arctic temperatures. Is Pennington again in, bowls, and again Pujara leaves, takes a big stride forward but leaves it pretty wide, and it just scoots through quite low to Ben Cox, who gathers neatly, moving away to his right. Score remains 190 for 5. Pennington, tall, blonde-haired, quite a lengthy run-up, straight, builds up pace as he approaches and bowls to Pujara, short and carved away by Pujara, down to third man for 4, short and wide, and Pujara, given room, just threw his hands at it, a sort of uppercut over sort of where 4th, 5th slip would be, and a couple of bounces, and it hits the boundary boards down below our commentary position here. Jake Livy retrieves, but pretty much free runs for Pujara there, as he threw his hands at it. Not much danger, no third man, only 2 slips, and he just carved it away down to the boundary. 194 for 5. Pujara goes to 105, and last ball of Pennington's over coming up. He comes in now and bowls, and Pujara plays defensively back up the pitch to the bowler. So excellent batting from Cheteshwar Pujara in that over, just playing each ball on its merits, leaving 2 or 3 alone, but the one really loose delivery, which was short and wide and gave him room, just threw his hands at it, a low risk shot, and carved it away to the third man boundary for 4. So 105 to Pujara, 8 to Rawlins, who's been very restrained this morning, and Sussex negotiating the first tricky 40 minutes of the morning without any great alarms this morning. They've both played very, very well, and Worcestershire, well, pretty much in need of a wicket now. This pair have added 39 so far for this 6th wicket, and Adrian Harms is back alongside me.
The good news is that our IT people have sorted out the glitch in my machine, so apologies that I was away for a bit there, Frank, but you can now email us, sussexcricket@bbc.co.uk, and at least someone just email us so that we know everything is working. So if you've got nothing to say, just put test or something like that so that we know that we are getting emails. Charlie Morris is going to come in to bowl to Delray Rawlins. He's beaten Rawlins a couple of times outside the off stump as he comes in again and bowls, and Rawlins tucks this one down towards 5. I think it came off the thigh pad. There was a bit of a thud, and we'll wait for umpire Middlebrook's decision, and he has decided that it's a leg bye. Total goes to 195 for 5. I didn't get the full stats of Pujara's innings in terms of how many 4s he hit. So
14.
Thank you very much. And it was an innings, but I'm not looking through rose-tinted spectacles, because that's not what this is all about. It's about applauding good play, and I would say it was an innings of the highest class from Cheteshwar Pujara. Just when Sussex needed him, and he's made over half the runs the side have scored. As Morris is in again to the Indian Test batsman, and he's just solidly in behind that, plays it to mid-off, and there is no run. Although I did see, while I was just getting the computer fixed, there was a loud appeal from Joe Leach. Was that from LBW?
Yeah,
right?
he left one alone and it nipped back. It's the one I was just saying, is one error of judgment that he's really made in the whole innings when it comes to leaving the ball, and it hit him on the pad, but it was a good decision, I think, because it didn't quite do enough looking at the replay. But when they don't play a shot and they hit, they get very excited.
Yes, they do. Yeah, and I saw Leach look disappointed, as he would. Morris in bowls, Pujara plays out into the offside, and there is no run.
No, I was just saying, when you were next door, Adrian, that I agree with you completely about the quality of the innings, but it's had a feel about it. If you think how difficult it is to make centuries, and how hard you have to work, and what milestones they are, what significance they play in a batsman's career. We always say how many centuries they've made. When you watch somebody get a century like this, you just feel it's almost been routine for Pujara. And I don't mean to downplay it. I'm saying that as a compliment, really. He's just applied himself in professional fashion.
Here comes Morris bowls and Pujara, who's made, I looked at these stats last week, 18 Test centuries. Yeah. His first class record, actually, that's his 52nd first class 100, which includes Test hundreds.
Yeah.
But he hadn't made 100 before Derby last week for 2 years.
No.
And
in county cricket,
yeah,
he's struggled a little
yes,
bit.
he has. And I spoke to him about that, and he said, well, one of the problems has been because of COVID. There hasn't been the volume of cricket back in domestically in India either.
Yeah. But it's been a joy to watch. It really has.
Quite extraordinary as well, the following he has on social media, Frank. As in comes Morris and bowls, and Pujara's up on his toes, and guides that into the covers. There is no run. In fact, he posted last week after his double 100 at Derby a couple of photographs and just said, enjoyed myself, great to be able to make a contribution, and that the thing got liked, I think, 30,000 times. He's got 2.7 million followers on Twitter. It's quite extraordinary.
I wouldn't mind having shares in an Indian mobile phone company.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. But I spoke to him for the first time last week. Very quietly spoken, very pleasant man to speak to. Considered answers, Frank. It was. I was talking to him, thinking, crumbs, in India, you're.
Yeah, you'd be mobbed.
You would. Morrison, Pujara lets that go outside the off stump, taken by keeper Cox. There is no run. It is the end of the over. A maiden over from Charlie Morris. 17 overs, 8 maidens, 1 for 35. Sussex, 195 for 5. It means they've added, 26 runs this morning? Yes, that's right. Pujara 105, Rawlins 8. I mean, from a Sussex point of view, the great news is that there hasn't been a wicket. I mean, certainly now, I would imagine that Brett D'Oliveira is thinking, well, the new ball is 16 overs away. That's something that will be coming into his mind, I'd have thought, in terms of rotating his bowlers. He'll certainly want Leach taking the new ball, and that's going to happen before lunch. So that'll be just another little milestone that Sussex will need to negotiate. Because this ball is 64 overs old.
Dylan Pennington to continue from the Diglis end of the ground, bowling to Delray Rawlins. And he pulls out of his run-up.
That's 2 or 3 times he's done
Morris
that.
do that as well, yeah.
No, Rawlins is saying someone was moving behind the bowler's arm.
I think it was something like that.
But I can't see anyone moving.
No, nobody's looking sheepish or guilty. Are they ducking down? They often do.
Yeah. But
hiding.
But nothing more guaranteed to get a bowler worked up.
No.
I mean, he was virtually in his delivery stride.
Yeah, he wasn't far off. Anyway, he comes in now, and this time he does bowl, and Rawlins clips him very, very nicely off his toes, just behind square on the onside. They'll take 2. They are not going to come back for a third. They thought about it, but Charlie Morris had got the throw away. So 2 to Rawlins, takes him into double figures. He's on 10. 199 for 5. Talking about Pujara and his popularity, I've got 2 sisters. One of them is perhaps a little bit more of a sporting follower than the other, and the one who isn't sent me a text message around about the middle of last summer, and it said, I don't see her very often, and COVID has meant that we've hardly seen each other for a while. She lives down in Bracknell, and here comes Pennington again. And Rawlins drops us down on the onside. No run, Azhar Ali fields. And it said, is Sachin Tendulkar a famous cricketer? Thought she'd ask me because she thought I'd know. So I replied in fairly calm terms, as you would in a text. Yes, very famous. In India, almost a deity, I think I said, or something like that. And she said, oh, her daughter, my niece, her husband's brother was getting married, and she said, he's coming to the wedding. In comes Pennington again and bowls, and he bowls him. That's a beauty from Pennington. Delroy Rawlins played across it, I'm afraid played right across it, and it made mincemeat of the stumps. Middle stump extracted, and a really, really useful breakthrough for Worcestershire this morning, just as we were saying that they needed a wicket. Delray Rawlins is bowled by Dylan Pennington. Reward for Pennington, who's bowled pretty well.
No, I think he has.
As yet, that's his first wicket, and he's absolutely delighted. Rawlins gone for 10. The breakthrough for Worcestershire. The partnership was 42, and it's 197 for 6. Really good piece of bowling.
Well, I enjoyed watching Dylan Pennington bowl yesterday, and I think he's been, by some distance, the quickest bowler in the match. And he's running really hard. But
watching a replay. Yeah, just played around it a little. I mean,
Yeah.
it was straighter than he thought. I think if it had been, it's almost as though he thought it was going to be middle and leg. Just fell over it a bit. You can't believe it. He's
Tom
very
Alsop.
sad. Yeah, Tom Alsop, who injured his hand dropping a catch on the first day and left the field. First time we've seen him since, but he is coming back out to bat. Just to go back to Sachin Tendulkar, it turns out that he is the godfather of the bride at this wedding, which took place in November. And he was going to come out, so I said, well, I've got to get a book signed or something like that. I'll send one down. And anyway, after all that, and I said, I imagine that there'll be a lot of security and all this kind of thing. And my sister was becoming more and more surprised by the information that I was passing to her. And after all of that, because of COVID, I think in the end he didn't come. But he is due to visit them this summer, I think.
Wow.
And so I'm hoping that I might be able to get something signed.
Wow, that'd be
So,
amazing.
yeah, it would. Is Sachin Tendulkar a famous cricketer?
It's strange. Dave
Have you heard of Elvis Presley?
Well, it's funny. Dave Fletcher and I had a conversation last week, and I don't know how we got onto it, but we got onto talking about baseball. And Dave is a big fan of the San Diego Padres, I think they're called, and watches a lot of baseball. And I was saying to him, "Do you know what, Dave?" I said, "I don't think I could name one baseball player." And he said, "You must be." I said, "I don't think I could name. I mean, I think there was that I could probably name one in my life, but I said I can't. And he was saying, these guys in America are paid multi millions. They make Premier League football salaries look like peanuts almost. Some of these guys, and I don't know any of them. I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I've got a little bit of sympathy for your thumbs up from Charlie Morris to Frank. So I've got a bit of sympathy, but I agree. When you know the sport, you think, oh come on.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose that's absolutely right. But anyway, it made me, it amused me, and but it just I suppose it's nice really that not everybody is of the same of the same interest really. Anyway, here's Pennington bowling to Alsop. Let's see how hampered he is by his hand injury. Big shout for LBW. To be fair, I think the loudest shout was coming from Ed Barnard, who's at mid-wicket. It's clearly pitched outside leg stump. But Alsop will be a little bit unsettled by that he missed it and was taken on the pad. He'll be a little bit nervous. He won't himself know how his hand is going to work, as it were. So I think Worcestershire just sensing a little window here, aren't they? Just sensing that they might just have an opportunity to take another clutch of wickets as they did yesterday. Is Pennington in again? Bowls, and this time Alsop plays very solidly. That's a very reassuring shot for him. Got that right in the middle of the bat and played it back up the pitch. Sun makes an appearance. 197 for 6.
Sorry, Frank. Tom Alsop scores so far for Sussex. He made 1 and 6 in the first game against Nottinghamshire, and then last week at Derbyshire. Just break off for a moment.
Here's Pennington in. Left-handed Alsop waits and is beaten by one that's a good one. Slanted across him. End of the over. Good over from Pennington. Picked up a wicket. 11 overs, 1 maiden. 1 for 35 his figures, and the breakthrough for Worcestershire, 197 for 6.
He then in the first innings at Derby made 7, so he still hadn't got double figures at that stage. Then in the second innings he was run out by Tom Haynes, having looked pretty good in making 16. I spoke to Tom after the game, Tom having made his big score, and Tom said he felt really awful. Tom played the ball to point. He said it was completely my fault. And also was run out by a country mile.
So he's struggling, let's be fair.
Yes, he is
struggling for a bit of form.
He is struggling, so his top score is 16 in 4 innings, and that's the last thing he would need when he moved from another county, is then to break a finger. But he's out there, and he hasn't looked in huge discomfort, and you'd have thought that, despite the state of the game, that the medical advice, if he was, would be. So, but if he gets a blow on that, it's probably going to be mighty painful. Here comes Ed Barnard to bowl to Pujara. He's in and bowls Pujara with an exaggerated leave outside the off stump, and there is no run. Could you name a baseball player, a current one?
No. I couldn't. No, couldn't name many American footballers. I mean, that's made a revival, isn't it? American football was very popular You know, when it first started getting covered by Channel 4 way
Yeah.
back in the 80s, and then it fell away. But I know a lot of cricketers who tweet about it, very, very keen on their American football now. But I don't follow American sport really.
Here comes Barnard, bowls. Pujara is hit on the pad. There's a loud appeal. Barnard thought he'd got his man. Umpire Middlebrook disagreed, and there is no.
That was a better one, I think. Yeah.
Didn't play no shot. Was
Didn't
Pujara.
play a shot, and I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? It's something I've talked extensively to batsmen about, particularly to Daryl Mitchell, when I've talked about the fact that I don't think players leave it well enough anymore. They don't, because they're brought up playing white ball cricket, looking to play shots all the time. Leaving is an art that has died a bit, and I think we saw that in the Ashes, really, that players were playing at balls they shouldn't have played at. But Daryl Mitchell has made some good points to me about it.
Barnard in bowls. Pujara this time leaves nothing to chance. Plays into the covers. There is no run.
And he said, you know, whilst he understands people saying that, it's possibly not one thing that they're not so much aware of is the effect that what they call wobble seam has had on this, which is that bowlers are now using this wobble seam approach where the ball can go either way, and even they don't know which way it's going to go.
Barnard in again bowls. Again, Pujara lets that go. Taken by Cox. There is no run.
So there was a time where, you know, your bowler would grip the ball, and if you're a really keen-eyed batsman, certainly something I used to do, if you can see where the shine is, you know it can only go one way. But with the way that they've got this sort of wobble seam method, even the bowler doesn't know which way it's going to go. So even though it might pitch fifth stump and you think, what's he leaving that for? It's come back in. He was leaving it thinking it might go away. So it's become much more difficult.
Barnard's interesting, comes in and bowls, and Pujara doesn't time this. Looking to play off the back foot into the offside, but instead he's rather squared up, plays it down the onside.
And that's why I think
There is
Pujara's been so excellent in his leaves in this game. But twice this morning now he's left one that's nipped back when he's obviously thought it isn't going to. And that one was closer than the Leach one, I think. But possibly, just again, umpire's coolish, if you know what I mean.
Mark Rose has been in touch. I'll read your email in a moment, Mark. Thank you for sending it in. In comes Barnard bowls, and Pujara this time does get runs, and that's 4 runs. 2 wide from Ed Barnard, and a point that Frank made yesterday, that anything loose, Pujara as punished, and it was a good over from Ed Barnard, but the final delivery was wide outside the off stump, and Pujara's not going to waste an opportunity, and he belted the ball through point for 4 runs. He goes to 109. Sussex 200 is up, 201 for 6. Adrian and Frank, he says, test email as requested. So thank you, Mark. So we've at least got one person listening this morning. He says, I can't believe none of the Division 1 sides picked up Shan Masood or Pujara as their overseas player. Great to see them in Division 2 nonetheless. Cheers for the commentary. Mark Rose, a Worcestershire exile in Somerset. Thank you for getting in touch.
Dylan Pennington from the Diglis end down the leg side to Tom Alsop, who lifts his back clear of that actually and watches it go through to Ben Cox behind the stumps.
A lot of I went out for dinner last night with some of the people from Sussex who are just up here watching the game. Good to catch up, and you can imagine much of the debate around the table was about the Strauss report, what it's going to mean for English cricket, and some eagle-eyed at the table had spotted this chap who's now likely to be the chairman of the ECB that's been widely reported this morning. I'll see if I can find the article concerned. How true it is, who knows? I mean, it's an article in a paper, but...
Third slip going in, Ed Barnard for Alsop, who faces Pennington now, and in he comes and he bowls, and that's short, and Alsop is off the mark, pulling that away. Looks in
doesn't seem to be
real
hampered, does he?
discomfort. Gets a single down to Baker at deep backward square, and Pujara on strike. So Alsop off the mark, as I say, and it's 202 for 6.
Yeah, so a few things. The Telegraph reporting how true this is, I don't know, it's a newspaper. But Simon Katich is apparently emerging as a strong contender for the England head coach job.
Wow.
As reported in the Telegraph this morning. He's 46, he's the current head coach of Manchester Originals in the 100. He's held a number of positions in the IPL, including as Royal Challengers Bangalore head coach.
Here's Pennington in, bowls to Pujara drops that down on the onside. No run. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, he's represented Australia in 56 Test matches, scoring 10 centuries. Well versed in the English domestic game after playing for 5 counties: Durham, Yorkshire, Hampshire, Derbyshire and Lancashire. So he seems to be emerging as someone who, he was a pundit with Rob Key, doing some media work as well, which may or may not be relevant. So that's one of the things reporting in the Telegraph this morning.
Miss Pennington again is in from the Diglis end. Bowls to Pujara, who edges that and is caught at first slip by Ed Pollock. That's a very, very big wicket. Really good bit of bowling from Pennington. First real error of judgment from Pujara. Just pushing at that one outside off stump, and very, very straightforward catch at first slip by Ed Pollock, if any catch can be called straightforward, but it was nice sort of waist height and he made no mistake, and that's a really, really big wicket for Dylan Pennington. Excellent innings from Cheteshwar Pujara, but he's gone for 109 made off 206 balls, and including, I think I'm right in saying, 15 boundaries, 16 in fact, 16 fours, and he gets a fantastic ovation from the Worcestershire faithful here. Fine innings, but a massive breakthrough for Worcestershire, brought about by Dylan Pennington, who struck twice in the space of 2 overs, and it's 202 for 7, and Worcestershire now will be thinking, with an hour to go to lunch, come on, let's see if we can wrap it up. And Dylan Pennington probably will feel, as we do, that he's got his reward for some decent bowling, maybe even including yesterday.
Well, the first thing I would say is that catches win you matches, and it's a chilly morning here, and although it was by professional standards, it was a routine catch. It was a good catch. Been waiting there for a long time with Ed Pollock. You get one chance. Pujara nicks one once, in an innings, and you've got to take the chance, and the chance was taken. So, as I say, I was watching the Worcestershire boys this morning, actually, preparing. There was a lot of slip catching going on. So all that preparation, all those, throw downs, whatever they are, he took the chance. And I thought it was a good catch. So that's the first thing to say. Second thing to say, how nice to see the Worcestershire players applauding as Pujara walked off the field. We've spoken a lot, Frank, in this game about sportsmanship, but it doesn't happen very often. But the Worcestershire lads were all applauding.
They know that's a good innings, don't they?
Yeah. And as he walked into the pavilion, people standing as well. So, brilliant. And great innings from Pujara. He's done his bit. It's just that no one else really has.
Here's Dylan Pennington bowling to Grant Stewart, who's the new man on loan from Kent. Bowls, and he's forward. That was quick-ish. He's forward and he pushes it back to the bowler. Well bowled, Dylan Pennington. 202 for 7. Update coming for BBC Hereford and Worcester listeners very shortly. And 2 wickets since they were last with us. So the game moving on apace. Patience is a virtue. It's interesting to talk about the catching. Something I raised with the Worcestershire captain Brett Dolliver when I spoke to him in an interview after the day's play yesterday. Here's Pennington in, and he bowls, and that's left alone by Stewart, taken by Cox. And I said I drew attention to that fantastic catch that Jack Haynes took yesterday at second slip, diving to his left to remove Tom Clark after a good partnership. And I said, what a great catch that was. And Brett said, I'm really, really pleased for the lads because they work so hard at it. And they've spent all winter working on their catching. And a big one like that sticks. It's good. Well, since you were last with us, we've seen Worcestershire get themselves back into a position of some strength in this game, thanks mainly to the bowling of Dylan Pennington, who's picked up 2 wickets in successive overs, first removing the stubborn Delray Rawlins, middle stump uprooted, he was out for 10, and then crucially, just a couple of minutes ago, removing the obstinate Cheteshwar Pujara, who had played brilliantly to make 109 off 206 balls with 16 fours, but he edged a good Pennington delivery to first slip where Ed Pollock made no mistake with the catch. So excellent breakthroughs by Pennington, and now Sussex are 202 for 7. They still trail by 289 runs, and we've got 2 new batsmen at the crease. Grant Stewart yet to get off the mark, and Tom Alsop, who's on 202 for 7 in the 68th over.
Barnard bowls to Alsop, plays it out to the offside. There is no run.
Yeah, and Brett Dolliver, just going back to this catching, was saying, you know, they work so hard at it. And as I said yesterday, Worcester have had to put together a new cordon this year, really. Ricky Vessels has gone, Daryl Mitchell's gone, Tom Fell isn't playing. So, as you say, they're all good catches, but they'll be very pleased with those 2.
Barnard in down the leg side, flicks at it, does Alsop through to Cox, no run, and Pennington will forever remember the day when he dismissed Cheteshwar Pujara. Just coming back, we were talking about, so Simon Katich, according to the Saturday edition of the Daily Telegraph, is emerging as a contender for the England head coach job in red ball cricket, according to the Telegraph. And the other news is that Ron Khalifa is the new favourite to be the next ECB chairman, paving the way for Sir Andrew Strauss to become chief executive. In comes Barnard, bowls, and Alsop plays this off the hip to square leg, and there is no run. So just picking up on that.
And what do we know about Ron Khalifa?
Okay, let me just read it. Ron Khalifa is the favourite to be the next chairman of the ECB, and his appointment will pave the way for Andrew Strauss to be the new chief exec. Khalifa has led the nominations committee searching for a replacement for Ian Watmore, who stood down in October. But after a lengthy recruitment process and interviews last week, the board failed to agree on a new chair. Khalifa was always considered a strong candidate himself, with several county chairs pushing his cause. As in comes Barnard, bowls, and Alsop, I think that might have come off the thigh pad down to fine leg. He's going to pick up a single. Let's wait for the umpire's signal. Indeed, it is a
leg bye.
It is a leg bye. Khalifa was always considered a strong candidate himself, with several county chairs and ECB figures pushing him to stand. And the Cricketer reported on Friday that he has finally been persuaded to change his mind. Khalifa has a strong working relationship with Strauss, and insiders have indicated the two could come as a pair to take over the running of English cricket.
Well,
so there we are. That's sort of a bit of breaking news. How true it is, it's reports in a newspaper. We know, all we can do is report what is being said. We know not the truth or otherwise, but huge amount of speculation around English cricket at the minute, as in comes Barnard and bowls, and Stewart beaten outside the off stump through to keeper Cox. There is no run. End of the over, 203 for 7. Stewart yet to score, Alsop on 1.
That was an interesting one, you know. I was watching Grant Stewart closely there. He didn't know Barnard was on the way in. He was still looking down at his feet, and Barnard was running in, and I thought, he's got to look up soon, he's got to look up soon. And he looked up just a millisecond before Barnard got to the crease, and then played and missed. And I thought, if that had been me, I'd have pulled out, you know. I think sometimes it happens, you look and you think the bowler's on his way and the batsman doesn't realise. That was a really late one. But didn't seem to perturb Stewart too much.
No. Talking of which, just a quick thing on Grant Stewart. He's 28 years of age, born in Australia, in Western Australia. He's not cast as an overseas because he has an EU passport through his Italian mother. He's a qualified civil engineer, is Grant Stewart. He has made a first-class century. His best score in first-class cricket is 103. And he averages 23 in first-class cricket.
Not bad for a number 9. As Pennington is in, bowls to Alsop, and he leaves that one alone. And there's a few shouts and hands on heads behind the stumps. Not well, no. I think only because they were worried about it hitting them in the teeth or something, because it crept along the ground, bounced twice before Cox, and there was no danger at all as regards Alsop. It was a decent leave, but slightly uneven bounce, which Worcestershire won't worry about too much. They're still a long way ahead in this game, as Pennington is into Alsop, and he bowls, and Alsop is forward and plays back up the pitch to the bowler. It's got a buzz about it again now. The game, you've got the feeling of, you get these ebbing and flowing, these Pears. We talked about it yesterday, and after those 2 wickets from Pennington, you just feel that something's about to happen again, don't you? As he runs up, there's a bit of a buzz, a bit of an expectation. A few of the fielders beginning to clap and encourage again a bit more, with a bit more belief. Here's Pennington into Alsop, and he edges that, I think, all along the ground. A diving Barnard at third slip. gets a hand on it. Yeah, it was all on the ground, but it was a good delivery right up in the block on. Just jammed the bat down on it and squirted it out past third slip. They come back for 2 as it's pursued down to third man, but that won't worry Pennington too much. He was almost through the left-handers' defences. 205 for 7. Allsop goes to 3.
Look at Tom Allsop. He's 26, but he's played quite a lot of cricket. This is his 65th first-class match.
Yeah.
Average is 25.
Yeah. Here's Pennington round the wicket now to Allsop. Bowled. Lets that go outside the off stump. Taken by Cox. A cynic might say that averaging 25 after 60 odd games, he's probably lucky to still be in there. Doesn't bowl, does he?
No, keeps wicket.
Yeah, keeps wicket. So that might, that's another string to his bow. And I don't mean that nastily, but around about that high 20s, low 30s mark is usually the measure of, we say you've got to build on that. It's all right maybe for your first 20 games or so, but after that you've got to be pushing that up if you're going to hold down a place as a specialist batsman. Pennington is in and bowls, and Allsop, he's looking to play this straighter than it eventually went, I think. Yeah, looking to play it almost up to mid-on. He gets a thickish outside edge, picks a single up as Jake Libby runs back from cover to do the fielding. 4 now to Allsop. 206 for 7. I hope I'm not appearing to wish him ill. I'm not at all, but something we've often talked about with batsmen who move counties. They're often people that average in the 30s and low 30s, and one county will decide that they've had a lot of chances and they haven't pushed that up, and another county, perhaps a county against whom they've scored runs on 1 or 2 occasions, will think, we'll take a chance on them. Pennington over the wicket to Stewart, who edges down to third man for 4. Uppishly would have gone to about 5th slip. He was looking to hit it pretty hard down the ground, and he got a thickish outside down to the boundary. So he's off the mark, goes to 4, 210 for 7. And I think if you look around, batsmen that move counties fall into 2 categories for me. You get your Ducketts and your Slaters, who are looking to move up in the world, and then you get your batsmen who are moving because of lack of opportunity. I mean, you get Libby, someone like that, but looking at players that move counties, often batters in my book who average about 31, 32. So they've shown they can do it, but they haven't been consistent enough to nail down a place. Just a theory of mine.
No, one of the issues around Sussex it was again a discussion around the dinner table last night. Some of the players have left Sussex in recent times, as in comes Ed Barnard running away from us in and bowls to Allsop, who's forward, plays to mid off, and there is no run. And one who has left last season is Ben Brown, Sussex wicketkeeper, 22 first-class hundreds to his name. Playing for Hampshire, and he's 64 not out. With Hampshire 409 for 4 at Canterbury against Kent. Liam Dawson is 111 not out. James has been in touch. James Trollope with an email. Thank you, James. As in comes Barnard over the wicket bowls. Allsop, who doesn't seem to be hampered by this hand injury. It's not as if he's playing the ball and taking his hand off the bat at all. So the speculation was yesterday from the Sussex camp that an X-ray showed his finger wasn't broken. It was an injury that he sustained whilst actually dropping Brett D'Oliveira in the slips on the first day, and it looked really serious when he went off because he did look in quite a bit of discomfort, but no break, but badly swollen as Barnard is in and bowls, and Allsop drives nicely down the ground. That's a good looking shot from Tom Allsop. That's going to be 4 runs. Not much Dilling Pennington can do about that, and that's a nice looking shot by Tom Allsop, straight down the ground for 4 runs. And I think we can, I'm not saying he's not in discomfort, I'm sure his finger is sore, but it doesn't seem to be inhibiting him in any way in terms of the way that he's playing. He goes to 8, Sussex to 214 for 7. Yes, so Ben Brown 64 not out yesterday. Michael Burgess, wicket-keeper batsman for Sussex, made 111. Yeah. Luke Wells made a half century, and it's a case of quite a bit of frustration for Sussex supporters as in comes Barnard bowls, forward comes Allsop, plays to mid-on, there is no run. James says, is there a more frustrating player to watch than Delray Rawlings? He doesn't appear to have worked out a way to play red ball cricket, unlike Phil Salt, Michael Burgess and Luke Wells. Let's see how Phil Salter's getting on today. In fact, he's not batting yet because Lancashire are piling on the runs. Josh Bohannon, 168 not out. Dane Villas, who's such a good skipper for Lancashire, on 84. Phil Salter next in, as in comes Barnard. Bowls to Walsall, plays this to square leg and there is no run. Lancashire 366 for 3 against Gloucester in the second division, which is what we're really interested in. It's all over down in Glamorgan. Glamorgan Buntley here, 122 and 132. Middlesex made 336, so Middlesex won by an innings and 82 runs. I mean, it makes no sense really. Glamorgan beat Nottinghamshire last week. Talking of which, Nottinghamshire are playing at Durham this week. Ben Slater is still there, 180 not out. As in comes Barnard. Bowls, and forward comes Allsop, plays into the offside. There is no run. End of the over. 2-1-4 for 7. Stewart for Allsop on 8. Ed Barnard 13 overs, 3 maidens. No wicket for 42. So Knox 398 for 7. And Slater still going strong on 180. And also in that innings, a century from Lyndon James, who made 108. And the only other game in the second division, Derbyshire are piling it on at Grace Road. They're 502 for 4, 209 for 219 from Shan Masood, and a century now for Matty McKiernan, who is 101 not out.
Here's Dylan Pennington into Grant Stewart, steers this down into the gully, fielded by Libby, and there's no run.
Well, you can see Derby.
Mickey Arthur effect is being felt at Derby, isn't it?
Well, you can see.
Or the Ian Bell effect, or the combined Arthur Bell effect.
Yeah, well, you can see certainly Derbyshire, what with a lead of best part of 300 with 2 days to go, you would, unless there was some really good lower or some good defiance from Leicestershire second time around.
Again.
Yeah, Derbyshire, after having several years in the doldrums, getting things together.
Pennington once more from the Diglis end. Bowls, and Stewart looking to turn this on the leg side, is taken on the pad low down, I think, and it runs away on the leg side for a single, a leg by. 2-1-5 for 7.
I had a couple of messages yesterday, Frank, on Twitter that I didn't reply to, so I'll see if I can find those and mention them if the people are still listening.
Here comes Pennington again, as the sun once again tries to break through. Round the wicket to the left-handed Allsop, working up a bit of a head of steam, Pennington, and Allsop is forward to this, pushes back to the bowler, and there's no run. 2-1-5 for 7. The 2 men out today, both falling to Pennington. Delray Rawlins, middle stump uprooted, out for 10, and then the Centurion Cheteshwar Pujara caught at first slip by Ed Pollock for 109. Those wickets falling at 197 and 202. And here's Pennington again in. Bowls to Allsop, who leaves that alone outside the off stump, and it's taken by Cox. 71st over, so 9 more after this until the new ball, if the Sussex resistance lasts that long. D'Oliveira will be hoping it doesn't, and then he'll be faced with the choice of whether he enforces the follow-on or not. Josh Baker just doing a bit of loosening up. That's a good shout for me to bring the left arm spinner in. Might just pose 1 or 2 new problems for this pair. Pennington in, round the wicket, bowl to Allsop, good leave outside the off stump, taken by wicketkeeper Cox once again.
A new ball, Frank, only 9 overs away as well, which may be significant. It was Mike Brown who got in touch yesterday, very, very formal is Mike. He says, "Dear Mr. Harms, I'm thoroughly enjoying the coverage provided by yourself and Mr. Watson in currently sunny Climping. I'm a fairly new convert to this wonderful sport, but I've already learned a lot. Thank you," he says. So Climping is a place down on the south coast, a little seaside. It's a very, very small village just across the River Arun from Littlehampton.
Sounds lovely. Pennington over the wicket now to the left-handed Allsop. Bowls a bouncer, which Allsop ducks well underneath. End of the over from Dylan Pennington. His figures now 14 overs, 2 maidens, 2 for 43. and with Grant Stewart on 4 and Tom Alsop on 8. Sussex are currently 215 for 7, which means that the deficit is 276.
Josh Baker.
Well spotted, Frank. It is going to be Josh Baker. Just talking about Littlehampton, a lovely seaside town. There's a very good fish and chip shop called Fred's, which we'll give a little plug to. But probably more important for everybody in Littlehampton, they've got a trip to Wembley coming up next month because they're through to the final of the FA Vase.
Oh wow, yeah.
And it's a bit of a shame because the final is scheduled for the same day as the last round of Premier League matches, and I'm sure if Brighton and Hove Albion are safe in the Premier League, which they are all but, barring some sort of a miracle, I think there'll be quite a lot of Albion fans who would fancy a trip to Wembley to cheer on their local Sussex non-league side. So huge day coming up for Littlehampton, and I bet the players are desperate not to pick up any injuries in the last few weeks of the domestic season. Let's hope that doesn't happen and everybody's fit and well to play on the big day, but what an occasion that's going to be. Josh Baker, 10 overs, 3 maidens, 0 for 23, is coming into bowl to Grant Stewart. Around the wicket he's in and bowls, and Stewart stretches forward, plays down the track. There is no run. He's got a slip and a short leg keeping him company. Backward point, cover mid off, mid on, mid wicket, and a deep backward square. 215 for 7. Sussex a long way away from avoiding a potential follow-on. Baker in bowls, and Stewart drives firmly. Baker peels off his own bowling. There is no run. So to avoid the follow-on, Sussex would need to get to 342. So they still need the best part, another 130 runs. Whether it would be enforced is another issue, of course. In comes Baker, bowls. Stewart stretches into the offside. There is no run.
I saw Josh Baker's mum and dad this morning coming in quite early. They haven't been here for the first 2 days, so I'll be hoping they can have something to cheer about in the next few minutes.
18 years of age, batted very well and bowled very nicely as well. But what he did bowl was a very tight spell. It's something that Sussex haven't had throughout the match, but you look at his figures, he's going at just a little over 2 and over.
His dad said to me, he said, I just can't believe how quickly it's all happened. He said this time last year would have been getting ready for a school game, and this morning he could be bowling at one of the best batsmen in the world. Well, that's the reality. Baker in bowls, holds that back, and Stewart goes long and hits it straight down the ground for 6 runs. He's not having a look.
That's a big blow from Grant Stewart, who we know has made a first-class century for Kent, but he just put a big left foot down the wicket and hammered the ball over long off for 6, and that went a long way actually. That's got a long way
shot,
back.
That, I think, and that's interesting. It's good for Baker, isn't it? He's got to contend with that. From what I saw of him last year, he's quite good at handling the sort of pressure that you get when somebody comes after you like that. It'll be interesting to see how he reacts. They haven't changed the field.
No, and also actually I think for a spinner, you don't mind someone hitting you over the top. In comes Baker, bowls that's short, and Stewart's going to get more runs here as he plays that to the sweeper on the cover boundary. Stewart goes to 11. Sussex 222 for 7. What I mean by that is it shows the batsman's got some attacking intent, and I think D'Oliveira quite right to leave his mid on, mid off up.
Yeah.
Saving that. End of the over. 222 for 7. Stewart 11, Alsop 9. Live cricket here on the BBC, BBC Radio Sussex, BBC Radio Hereford and Worcester. Myself, Adrian Harms, and Frank Watson. Please keep your messages coming. It's always good to hear from people throughout the day. I know we tend to not get so many people listening on a Saturday because people have got things to do throughout the day. But if you're sitting around thinking, I wonder about this or the other, drop us a line. sussexcricket@bbc.co.uk or tweet at FrankWatson58, at BBC Sussex Sport, or at Adrian Harms.
I think the ball's been damaged by its journey into the stands following that 6 from Grant Stewart, and the umpires have called for a change. I think it's probably not gone out of shape, but it might have been lacerated by contact with something sharp down there. Those contact details. I'm at Frank Watson 58. Adrian is at Adrian Harms, capital A, capital H. And the email is sussexcricket@bbc.co.uk. We don't have a designated Worcestershire Cricket BBC email account, so that Sussex one will suffice. Always good to hear from people, and interesting to reflect on as I was saying about Josh Baker, from school cricket to
amazing.
England under-19s over the winter, and playing here against Cheteshwar Pujara yesterday, and Josh's dad said to observed exactly what we'd said yesterday about Pujara's playing of Josh Baker's left arm spin, that he used his feet to come at him almost straight away, forcing him to think about his length, and then when he did just even slightly err on the short side, Pujara's very quickly back and playing that little dab down to third man, which he profited from several times. So that's exactly the sort of challenge provided by the experience of having to bowl at players like that. Dylan Pennington's been replaced at the New Road end, at the Diglis end, by Ed Barnard, who is wicketless so far and is coming in now to bowl to Stewart. He bowls and Stewart clips this one off his pads out to Joe Leach, who's out on the square leg boundary. They take a single. I think Leach is being held back for the new ball.
Yeah. When you say that Josh Baker played for England under 19s, was that in the World Cup?
He was in the squad.
Was he?
I think he might have played one game.
Yeah. I know James Coles from Sussex and Daniel Ibrahim were both in it.
Yeah, they were.
I don't think they played a great deal though.
No, they did play some. I watched Ibrahim play. I followed him quite closely after his exploits here last year, but I think Josh Baker was in the squad and might have played one game, might have played in one of the warm-ups. I'm not exactly sure. I'm sure Paul will be listening, could tell me. Actually, I don't know if he'll be listening because he's here. Here's Ed Barnard, and he bowls to Alsop, who drives for 4, square up behind square on the offside, wide, full, loose delivery, and 4 runs. Talking of listening in the ground, we talked about it, didn't we, the other day? About whether there's a delay, and I had a tweet from one of our regular listeners, Nikki. I won't say where she is, and I'll tell you why when I find, if I can find it. But she said, listening discreetly in the office today, she said, and that was because obviously she can't listen too obviously in the office. In comes Barnard again and bowls, and this one is pushed out on the offside, and there's no run. That 4 for Alsop, by the way, took him to 12. Yeah, she said, listen discreetly in the office. When I'm at the ground on Saturday, I can't find it exactly, but she said, when I'm at the ground on Saturday, I listen. But there's always a 2 or 3 ball delay, which I thought must be very annoying, really. I don't think I could cope with that.
No.
And also, you'll be cold if you're here today. But if you're here today and you're listening, congratulations on staying warm, and thank you for listening even in the cold. And with the delay, as Barnard bowls again to Alsop, who plays back up the pitch. Joe Leach does the fielding. Just had a tweet from Tim Dale Lace, who says, hi Frank, loving the commentary as always. Which school did Josh Baker go to? He went to Malvern College for the last 2 or 3 years of his education, as did Jack Haynes. In comes Barnard, bowls again to Alsop, who plays on the onside, and Azhar Ali does the fielding at short mid-wicket. It's 227 for 7, 2 wickets today, both falling to Dylan Pennington. The men out, Rawlins for 10 and Cheteshwar Pujara for an excellent 109. But Worcestershire are well on top and looking to wrap up this first innings of Sussex as Barnard comes in from the Diglis end. The bowls and hits Alsop on the pad, strangled appeals as he sort of fell over that one, but no more than that. End of the over from Barnard, still without a wicket. 14 overs, 3 maidens, no wicket for 47, his figures, and it's 227 for 7.
I do know, Frank, with some of the Sussex younger players, because, for example, the likes of Daniel Ibrahim, Archie Lenham, James Coles, they're all still at school. And in the case of Dan Ibrahim, I think he's now into his A-level year. Right.
He's still at school now.
Yes.
I didn't realise that.
James Coles the same. So one of the things that Ian Salisbury said, because he injured his shoulder, and if you're listening, Dan, or the family are listening, I hope the recovery is going well. I gather it's ligament damage, but He'll now got a bit more time to revise for his exams, as in comes Baker and bowls, and forward comes Stewart.
So
onto the onside, there is no run.
And if he were fit and he were playing county cricket at the moment, the club would have to be working quite closely with the school, I would imagine, to ensure that he gets the odd class and
I think
plenty of revision time.
Absolutely, Frank. I think it's that, and working closely with the parents as well. As in comes Baker and bowls, and cut away by Stewart to backward point. He picks up a single, Stewart. He goes to 13, 228 for 7. Yeah, and I think it's a bit of a juggling act. So certainly, I think with Ibrahim, Cole's played last week, but he's not playing this week. I think that might be because of studies.
Yeah.
And then there's a big decision to be made,
Absolutely.
isn't there? Because university beckons. Do you go to university? Do you miss that opportunity? But if you've got a chance to play cricket at a high level, they're not easy decisions to make.
No,
at 18 years of age, in comes Baker bowls, played into the covers.
And I've had a lot of experience as a master in charge of cricket and a teacher of A-levels at the same time for many years. I had a lot of experience with dealing with just those sort of juggling difficulties.
Baker in over the wicket, bowls back on his stumps is also a slightly dangerous game to play. Plays it comfortably enough to backward point. There is no run, because if you're going to university, it was never on my radar, Frank, to go to university. But a lot more people go to university now, and perhaps you go with people of your similar age. When you get there, you don't, it's a wonderful experience. As in comes Baker bowls, also plays into the offside. There is no run.
Update for BBC Hereford and Worcester's FM listeners: imminent. Worcestershire have picked up 2 wickets this morning, those both going to the bowling of Dylan Pennington. He got Delray Rawlins clean bowled for 10, and then Cheteshwar Pujara, the linchpin of this Sussex innings, caught at first slip by Ed Pollock for 109, made off 206 balls with 16 fours. That was 202 for 7. Since then, solid resistance from Grant Stewart, the all-rounder on loan to Sussex from Kent at the moment. He's on 13 and has hit 1 big 6 so far, and Tom Alsop, who's on 12. So Worcestershire striving for a further breakthrough before the lunch interval. Sussex at the moment 228 for 7, and they still trail by 263 runs. And it's Ed Barnard to continue from the Diglis end. And he bowls to Stewart, who pushes this back up the pitch to the bowler. We'll resume our discussion, I think, when Adrian returns from updating BBC Radio Sussex listeners about the difficulties that these young cricketers have sometimes in terms of juggling their cricket commitments and their studies, and then that decision about whether to go to university or not when you leave school, if you've got a cricket career beckoning. Here's Barnard again. He bowls, and Stewart tries to clip this one away on the onside, just gets a sort of bottom corner on it really, and Azhar Ali dives to his left at short mid wicket to make the save. There's no run. And of course you might have a cricket career beckoning, but it's by no means secure. You could get injured, you might not make it. Decision to go to university might be deferred. It's Barnard in, bowls, and Stewart fortunate here as he jabs down on this, and the inside edge runs away on the leg side. Could easily have gone onto the stumps, but he gets a single and he moves on to 14, and the total 229 for 7. Sussex still a long way behind. Worcestershire have had to work hard to get these wickets. They got a wicket with the first ball of the innings, but since then, throughout yesterday and today, they've had to work, they've had to be patient, to stick at it. Barnard in, bowls to the left-handed Alsop, who looks to turn this on the leg side, misses it, it's taken on the pad, and they get a leg by as the ball runs down to long leg, where Charlie Morris does the fielding. Field changes over now for the right-hander, Grant Stewart, and the total moves on to 230 for 7. Under grey skies, slightly brighter than it has been at the moment, as Barnard comes in and bowls, and Stewart drives nicely. That's a lovely shot, a really good cricket shot on the up through extra cover, and it's just got enough to get to the boundary at extra cover as D'Oliveira pursues it. Nice shot from Stewart, and he goes on to 18, and the total to 234 for 7. And Barnard still wicketless in his 15th over, no wicket for 52 now. Last ball of that 15th over coming up, as he comes in now and bowls to Stewart, who edges and is caught low down at first slip by Ed Pollock. A very good catch, this one, down at sort of shin height to his left. Pollock picking up his second catch of the morning, and Grant Stewart, having just hit that lovely cover drive, is out. And that's Ed Pollock's first wicket, I beg your pardon, Ed Barnard's first wicket, Ed Pollock's second catch, and the 8th Sussex wicket is down. Stewart out for 18, partnership of 32 for that 8th wicket, and the total is now 234 for 8. So a wicket for Barnard with the last ball of his 15th over, 15 overs, 3 maidens, 1 for 52 his figures, and the total 234 for 8, and a good low catch by Ed Pollock.
Well, another good catch, wasn't it? We've said that, Frank, how well Worcestershire have caught in this game, and you know, it is an old adage, and it's perhaps a bit boring, but then perhaps I'm a bit boring. But but catches do win matches, and
Yeah.
you know, you have to say, you know, tough though it was on Tom Alsop, that drop, and he hurt his finger, and you wouldn't wish that on anybody. It was a chance. It was a difficult chance, but it was a chance. And D'Oliveira was put down when he was on 19. He went on to score 169 not out, and at that stage, had that catch been taken, Worcestershire would have been 137 for 5.
Yeah.
And these moments in games are moments
Absolutely.
where, I mean, it was a chance, and
Absolutely.
you don't want to blame one player. That's completely unfair. But Worcestershire have caught everything, and it's not a great day to be fielding. It's cold, it's blustery, and they haven't missed a beat.
That's a good catch.
And also coming at an important time, because I'm sure that Brett D'Oliveira is probably thinking, right, 5 overs to the new ball. Anyway, in comes Baker, comes into bowl to Alsop, who plays this too long on, picks up a single. He goes to 13, 235 for 8. I'm sure there were interesting conversations you had, Frank. I was interested in that conversation about, someone at 18, right,
Yeah.
I've got good A-level results, I want to go to, I've got a place at Durham.
Yeah.
But I'm also a good cricketer, so can I make it in the first place? But then I want to go to university with people of my own age. I don't want to go when I'm 22, 23 if I fail at cricket. That's a difficult difficult to give advice, Frank.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned it a little bit while you were next door.
Baker in bowls, forward comes Crocombe, plays onto the leg side.
Ed Barnard's one that chose not to go to university, could have done, and chose not to. And then you've got Joe Leach, who's chose to go to university and sort of combine it with his cricket, because he went to one of those universities that has a cricket centre of excellence, but they're dying out now.
Baker in bowls to Crocombe, plays up to the offside, there is no run.
And there was a time where you could go to Durham and you could be under the tutelage of Graham Fowler and get your degree alongside your cricket, and that's the ideal world. But
Baker in bowls, forward comes Crocombe. There is no. I mean, I wonder
not
if
always the case.
I wonder if there is a halfway house where maybe you can go to university and somewhere like Loughborough, perhaps I'm thinking, which is got a reputation of being very sport orientated, as well as other things, of course. In comes Baker bowls, played into the slip cordon. There is no run.
Yeah, I think the demise of the UCCE programme, the University Centres of Cricketing Excellence, is a complicating factor, I think.
In comes Baker bowls, played forward. Does Crocombe down the offside of the track? There is no run. 235 for 8. Crocombe yet to score. Alsop on 13. I had a daughter who went to Exeter University, and down there they did have a big cricket indoor school. Yeah,
they did. Oh, there's don't get me wrong. I mean, there's some fantastic facilities. Loughborough is probably the premier facility in the country that England use, and so on. But it's that decision about whether to commit yourself to cricket, isn't it, really? And as I say, it's an insecure career. You might not make it, you might get injured. If you can do the two alongside each other, it's perfect. Worcestershire have long had a connection with the university here at Worcester, where they sort of sponsor a player. As Ed Barnard comes in from the Diglis end, bowls short to Alsop, who slaps that away for 4. Short and not really quick enough to get away with that, Ed Barnard, and Alsop just stands up and smacks it away to the leg side boundary for 4.
That's his highest score so far.
Highest score of the season. You get 17, 239 for 8. And Worcestershire have, they've benefited. Daryl Mitchell was one of the somebody who did his degree at Worcester while he was also playing cricket. Pat Brown is another who's recently benefited. Is Barnard again, bowls to Alsop, who drives on the offside, and will get 2 as Azhar Ali pursues that back from extra cover. They had to hurry, but I think it was always on.
Croker was slow to turn, actually.
19 now to Alsop, 241 for 8. Still a long way behind.
Yeah.
Worcestershire 3 more overs after this to the new ball. They'll be hoping they can wrap it up before lunch, I reckon. It only takes 2 balls, doesn't it? 241 for 8. Barnard to the left-handed Alsop. He's in, he bowls, and Alsop drives up to mid-off where Leach fields. It'll be Leach who I would imagine would take the new ball, probably with Morris, possibly with Pennington, if we get that far. And it will happen before lunch because Baker will get through his overs in about 2.5 minutes. Here's Barnard again. Alsop waits. Forward, pushing up to mid-on where Pennington fields. The men out this morning then, if you're just joining us. Delray Rawlins. Worcestershire had to wait quite a long time for the breakthrough this morning, but Rawlins eventually going for 10. Bowled by Dylan Pennington, and then in Pennington's next over, Pujara, who played beautifully for his 109, was caught at first slip by Ed Pollock. Break off as Barnard bowls to Alsop, who gets a sort of leading edge, chips this one away on the leg side, picks up a single. Third man out this morning, Grant Stewart, caught also by Ed Pollock at slip off Ed Barnard this time for 18. And it's now 242 for 8 with that single. Alsop has gone to 20. Crocombe yet to get off the mark. And Barnard continuing. 1 ball left in his 16th over. 1 for 59. So he's been quite expensive in terms of runs and the other bowlers. But he has picked up that one important wicket this morning. And he comes in now to bowl to Henry Crocombe. Bowls, and Crocombe just gets off the mark, steering this behind square on the offside. Charlie Morris comes in from third man to do the fielding, and that's the end of the over for Barnard. 16 overs, 3 maidens, 1 for 60 his figures, and it's 243 for 8.
As we've been saying, live cricket on the BBC. BBC Sussex, BBC Hereford and Worcester, Adrian Harms and Frank Watson. Peter's been in touch, Peter Quantrill. And he's talking about the delay, being inside the ground and listening. And Peter says, actually, it's about a ball's delay, not as bad as usual.
That's right.
So good to be back at what for me is a spiritual home. Pujara has the most beautiful leave I've ever seen in the flesh. But these late order runs are proving vexing to this Worcestershire supporter watching on just below your commentary box.
Oh, just
Peter
it's not too vexing, is it?
As in comes Baker bowls and clips by Crocombe through the onside, picks up a single fielded by Azhar Ali, who trots back from mid-wicket.
And I had a message from Nikki, who I'd said about the delay, and she says, yes, I'm here, and yes, it's cold.
Right.
1 ball's not too bad, is it? But yeah, I can see why you might think it's vexing, but I think you've just got to stick at it, just got to be patient.
Baker coming over the wicket to the left-handed Alsop, who reverse sweeps and is going to get 4 runs. I think it's fair to say that Tom Alsop doesn't appear to be remotely inhibited by this finger injury that he sustained on the first day. I mean, he may well have had some sort of pain-killing injection or something, who knows, but he certainly doesn't seem to be in any discomfort, and that was a cheeky shot it was. He goes to 24. I mean, it's a perfectly legitimate shot that players practice an awful lot. Also
it's a proper shot now, isn't it?
It is a proper shot. That's probably the word.
I think it was a high-risk
for.
shot when people first started playing it because they weren't used to playing it, but there didn't appear to be much risk about that, did there? He knew exactly. He looked at the field and he thought, well, I'm going to hit you there.
Slipping a short leg as in comes Baker bowls, and forward comes Allsop. That's a well judged signal actually. It was just played with soft hands by Tom Allsop into the offside. He immediately called Crocombe through, and Crocombe responded. I think we've got 3 more balls in the over to come. I would imagine that the new ball, when it's available, will be taken immediately by Brett D'Oliveira. I see no reason why he wouldn't take it. In comes Baker again, bowls. Crocombe is solidly forward, plays down the track, and there is no run. So Worcestershire making 491. So the arrears now are
2-4-2, is it?
Right.
Yeah.
In comes Baker again, bowls, and down the wicket comes Crocombe. He hits firmly down the ground, and he's going to get 4 runs. Took a chance, did Henry Crocombe, used his feet. Good shot, lofted drive through mid-on for 4. For a moment, I think D'Oliveira was interested because the ball was in the air for a long time, but it was way to his left. Very straight drive by Crocombe. In fact, it wasn't D'Oliveira. Who's this fielding at mid-on?
Libby.
Jake Libby. Now, interestingly, D'Oliveira is now moving his long on and long off a little deeper. Baker in again. Full toss, clipped away by Crocombe through mid-wicket. There's at least 1 and possibly 2. Very quickly round, though, in the outfield is
Morris.
Charlie Morris. Let's get my numbers ready, and there is 1 more to Henry Crocombe, so profitable over for Sussex. 254 for 8. Crocombe on 7, Allsop on 25. Josh Baker 14 overs, 3 made, 0 for 43. Charlie Morris is warming up down below us, so I think it is
Morris
inevitable
that
and why wouldn't Worcestershire take this new ball? We've got another
2 overs.
15 minutes to go till lunch, so we could well have a couple of overs, maybe 3 with the new ball. We will see.
But Barnard's going to carry on from the Diglis end, and he's bowling to the right-handed Crocombe over the wicket. 2 slips waiting as he bowls, and Crocombe drives nicely. That'll probably be 4, I think. In pursuit is D'Oliveira, but he's not going to get there. Nicely timed by Crocombe. Over pitched on leg stump, and Barnard's just struggled for any kind of consistency, hasn't he? He's bowled some good deliveries, picked up that 1 wicket, but been quite expensive in the context of this game. 1 for 64 now in his 17th over. It's not overly expensive, but just struggled to put the dots together really. He's in now and bowls, and that's a good delivery. He squares up Crocombe, who rather uncertainly just sort of pushes it out on the offside, off the outside edge. Better delivery.
Yeah, sorry. Top score of 46, Henry Crocombe in first class cricket. That came last year against Northamptonshire at Hove in a losing call. Sussex losing that game by 7 wickets.
He waits
so he can
now.
bat.
Barnard again. Lovely easy approach. He's in, he bowls, and that's a good delivery. Right? See, Barnard's got that capability of just occasionally uses it as a good surprise factor. Just bowls a good bouncer. He bowled one earlier to Pujara and got carved away. It was too short, but that one was. It was too wide, but that one was straight and took Crocombe by surprise. He avoided it perfectly capably, but it was a clever bit of bowling. And he comes again now, and bowls, and this one Crocombe just steers out on the offside. I always think Ed Barnard, you talked about how much you admire him as a cricketer. I always think when he bowls, and I know I've just said he hasn't bowled that well today, but he bowls some really good deliveries, but I don't think I've ever seen a bowler who takes as little out of himself. It's such an easy,
beautiful
approach to the crease, and he doesn't jar and bang his front foot down, just sort of runs through the crease. And this one is pushed out on the offside, fielded by Baker. And he does do a lot with the ball. He's a clever bowler in white ball cricket, lots of variations, and picked up 1 important wicket today, but just struggling, as I say, from at times, I think, to bowl an over without that doesn't contain a loose one in it. That's what I'm really getting at. In he comes now, bowls, and Crocombe beaten by a good one. That's a really good delivery. That's exactly the sort of thing I'm talking about. That one really went off the seam, and Crocombe was fishing for it outside the off stump. Fortunate not to get a nick. End of the over, Barnard takes his sweater and cap. Sun comes out, 258 for 8.
I think that might be the last we see of Ed Barnard for a while. I'd be very surprised if Joe Leach doesn't bowl the next over with the new ball from the Digleys end. Just one interesting point, Frank, what we were talking last night, because certainly Sussex last year always seemed to have two teams. There was the county championship side and the T20 side, and I'm not sure you want a bit more integration than that. I just wondered how many Worcestershire players playing in this match will be part of the T20 side and will start.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll have a look. I'll come up with a number, and then I'll maybe mention which of them it'll be.
Because Baker does rattle through his overs. As in comes Baker, left arm over the wicket. He's in and bowls, and Allsop flicks this off his front pad, just guides it through mid wicket.
I'd say 7. I'd say 7 or 8 of this team.
Wow, that is a lot.
Pollock definitely, Libby almost definitely, Haynes definitely, D'Oliveira definitely, Barnard definitely, Cox definitely, Leach probably not, Baker don't know, didn't play any last year, came in later, Morris in and out of the T20 squad, and Pennington definitely, I would say.
Baker in bowls. Forward comes Crocombe. I thought it sounded as if the ball came off the bat.
Yeah, I think they just thought it might have been pad first.
Back down the track, no run. I'm amazed that Joe Leach doesn't play T20.
No,
I thought
didn't play at all. Didn't play at all last year. Might refigure. I don't know, but not for the last year or two.
Baker in around the wicket bowls, and Crocombe down the wicket and hits firmly down the ground. He's going to get 4 runs, 1 bounce, both the ropes to 4. Perfectly safe shot by Henry Crocombe, because the mid-on was up and he lofted the ball over the infield for 4 runs. Crocombe goes to 15, 263 for 8.
And we've got 2 overseas players who will feature, who are Colin Munro and Dwayne Bravo at various times, and then Moeen might come back in for some T20. It's a decent lineup. Pat Brown might come back in if he's fit.
In comes Baker bowls played into the offside by Crocombe. I'm going to look through the Sussex, because it was something that I didn't feel was the right thing to have almost 2 clubs within a club.
Some counties have a different coach as well.
In comes Baker bowls. Full toss played by Crocombe down the ground, fielded by Libby. There is no run. When we got to finals day last year, Sussex played Kent in the semi-final, and I think Kent had something like 7 players in their side who had played in the previous county championship match. Sussex only had a couple. The balance doesn't feel quite right to me. As in comes Baker again and bowls, and Crocombe very nearly plays on. He plays it into the slip cord, and there is no run. End of the over, 263 for 8. Crocombe 15, Allsop on 26. I'd imagine the new ball will be definitely taken here. I'll be amazed if it isn't. Yes, the umpire is just signalling for the new ball, which is...
There's 2 boxes of them down there, aren't there?
I think there's a ball right by the Tupperware box. Is that the new ball? He's just pointing and saying, is that the new ball? Is Charlie Morris. I'm wondering if that's it. Yeah, he's got a new ball in his hand.
See the gold embossed logo shining out on it, can't you?
Well, I think it is going to be taken, but it's not going to be taken by Joe Leach. I think Ed Barnard is carrying on, and maybe Barnard's going to carry on with the old ball. Let
me have another one, Skip. Let me take the new ball. Maybe that's what that conversation was that they had.
Well, I think the new ball...
Morris is definitely warming up, and they've got the new ball, and they're showing it to the scorers, so it has been taken.
Leach is on the field. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe because we're so close to... I don't know. I mean, we're going to get probably at least 2 overs with the new ball, so maybe a bit surprising that Leach hasn't taken it. But maybe Barnard's warm and he's...
Yeah, just have one with it. Why not? As you say, because of lunch.
In comes Barnard, bowls to Allsop, lets that go outside the off stump, wide outside the off stump, taken by Cox. So of the Sussex side who are playing in this match, I would say in terms of playing in the T20, Orr no, Haynes no, Pujara no, Clark possibly, Rizwan yes, that's 2, Atkins no, Rawlins yes, Allsop no, Stewart probably won't be here, Burrows and Crocombe no, I would say 2 maximum.
Wow.
In comes Barnard, bowls and steered by Alsop onto the onside. He picks up one, they're thinking about two, they'll have to get a move on though. If the throw comes in, if it's accurate, he'll be gone. Oh, I think, well, that was an opportunity. It was played into the offside. It was Baker who came in. I didn't actually see which end the ball was thrown to, because I thought Croker was really struggling if it had been a good throw. Charlie Morris is going through a rigorous walk. Look at him, he's doing press-ups now. Now he's doing a bit of Pilates. What? That's hard doing that. I'd do a bit of Pilates and I couldn't do that. Mind you, he's younger than me. In comes Barnard, over the wicket, bowls, Alsop let that and go outside the off stump, no run, 265 for 8. So that makes a point. So Sussex have a lot of players who just play in the shorter form of the game, which is Sussex's choice, but what am I trying to say? I think it's good. It didn't feel good to me to have almost two teams within a club.
Yeah. Well, Worcestershire have lost Ross Whiteley, of course, who was an absolute linchpin of the T20 side for the last few years.
Barnard in bowls, and also looks to glide that down to fine leg taken by Cox, no run. And
Daryl Mitchell, who obviously played most of it and was a useful bowler in T20.
Whiteley gone to
Hampshire on just a white ball contract.
Right, okay.
And he plays in the 100 for the Southern Brave as well. So
he would have played championship cricket though, would he? If he was here this year, would he play championship cricket?
Unlikely.
Barnard in bowls. Alsop glides this down to fine. That's a nice looking shot by Tom Alsop. Gliding ball off the hip. There is a fine leg, but that was very fine. And 4
leg
runs.
buys.
Oh, I thought I'd come off the bat. Well spotted.
Yeah, he might have played the odd championship game, but probably not regular. I mean, if he'd been offered a red and white ball contract, it might be that he would have stayed. I don't know, but he's gone on a white ball contract to Hampshire.
Barnard was on his way, but then has to abort his run.
Hard to replace in the T20 side, but brilliant fielder, very good ball striker, and he'll leave a bit of a hole.
One more ball to go in this over. Charlie Morris, I think, is definitely going to bowl the next over from the New Road end as Barnard glides into the wicket, bowls. Alsop forward, punches that to mid-on. Throw comes, hits the stumps, he's out. Is he out? Umpire says he is out, yeah. Well, it was a really good bit of fielding and it was a really chancy run by Tom Alsop. I'm not sure it was entirely necessary. I know the new ball's been taken, but it was played to mid-on. I think it was Dilling Pettington who picked the ball up and threw down the stumps, and Alsop was always struggling. If he hit, he was going to be out. Tom Alsop didn't like the decision. He stared at the umpire. But Henry Crocombe was batting quite nicely for my money. I mean, I know it's the new ball, and I thought that was an unnecessary risk to take. I think that's a bit of a freebie wicket, if I'm being honest with you, Frank. I don't think he needed to do it.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's enough ways to get out, as they say, without making a run out. It was close. He did certainly look as though he thought he was in. I'm just watching a replay. It's not from the right end. Out, I would say. Out on the replay. Even though I was looking from sideways, I'm trying to just coordinate when he reached for the line with my view of when the ball hit the stumps, and basing that on what we've all done, which is watch loads of videos on TV and the IPL and everything else where you think, oh, he's in there, and then you look and he's actually a yard out or something. I think that was out. It was a good decision. It was a brilliant piece of fielding by Pennington. Really good. And as you say, my feeling would be, if I were in the Sussex dressing room, that was silly. We didn't need to do that.
Well, we're 5 minutes from lunch, 3 minutes from lunch now. Henry Crocombe is batted okay. He's got a first-class best of 46. He's 15 not out. He's faced 21 balls. I know the new ball has been taken, but if Sussex could have just get through to lunch with 8 down, it just gives Worcestershire something else to think about. But now, the new batsman is coming in. He's having to face Charlie Morris
with a new ball.
Sussex could be all out here before lunch when they could have gone in maybe 8 down. I don't quite understand that. I thought that was an unnecessary risk.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, it was, but these things happen.
Yeah,
he's doing it for the right reasons, and he'll be cursing himself. Good bit of fielding.
Great bit of fielding.
Very close, but I do think it was just out, and I haven't seen it sideways on.
They did 35 those two.
Yeah, they had.
With for a lower order partnership, just carry that a bit through. But I don't know anything about George Burrow's batting ability.
I do. Well, no, I don't. I know
We're about to
I know
find
he's a
out.
right-hander.
Is it you or me?
It's you.
In comes Charlie Morris, comes in and bowls, and Burrows is forward. He plays a perfectly respectable forward defensive to backward point. There is no run. So 3 slips in place. Point, cover, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket, and a fine leg. As it's been a good morning for Worcestershire. They have picked up 4 wickets. If they could pick up a 5th here, then they've got lunch to decide what they're going to do.
Yeah.
You know, that's perhaps a nice natural break, isn't it? You can sit down and think, right. It's not a case of when we pick up the next wicket, that's already done. Morris in bowls, Burrows. Oh, it's a beautiful shot. Lovely looking shot for a number 11 batsman. Beautifully driven to D'Oliveira at extra cover. Nice looking shot. No run.
Is he in the playfair? Do we know what his highest score is or anything like that? Oh, he's only played 2 list day games, hasn't he? So
Let's have a look. Let's have a look. At, in fact, he may not be, but I'll...
might not be.
Because he's come from Lancashire, but I think
Yeah.
he was released.
Oh, really?
Well, let's see.
I'll do the commentary. Here's Morris bowling to Burrows, who we're trying to find out about. He's in, he bowls, and Burrows is beaten by a decent one from Morris, just short of a length. Went back to it, tall man, batting on off stump. Well, maybe, to be fair, I think he probably pulled his bat away.
George Burrows and SMO Shah left the staff without making a county first 11 appearance in 2021, so he has been released by Lancashire.
So it's not a loan then.
No, I mean.
Well, maybe it's a gamble. Maybe he's said, "Give me a go." Deeply hasn't played. Maybe he'll have a game or 2 in the second after this.
Playfair is saying that he was released.
Morris in again, bowls to him, and he's forward, pushing that out on the offside. No run.
So perhaps it's a short-term contract
Yeah,
rather than a loan.
yeah. And maybe they'll say, we'll give you a go in the seconds. Bit of a gamble then to play him. Somebody must have seen him, mustn't they? One of the coaches must have seen him. You would think to throw him into a first team game that they would have
I think
got an idea what
to a
he's
certain
capable of.
extent needs must, because
Yeah.
he signed a professional contract with Lancashire in...
Here's Morris again. Anyway, 2 balls to go to lunch. He's in. He bowls and take another pad and he's out. LBW walked across his stumps and is out. LBW and yeah, absolutely dead. That one by my judgment. Charlie Morris picks up a wicket and it's all over very conveniently, just on the stroke of lunch. 1 ball before lunch, and Worcestershire, as you say, now have a decision to make. 269 is the Sussex total. Burrows out without scoring. That leaves Crocombe on 15 not out, and the total 269. That's a deficit of 222, and Brett D'Oliveira will now get his head together with the head coach Alex Kidman and they'll decide, I suspect.
Well, I'm just going to say that Sussex have added exactly 100 runs this morning, but I think that's... Worcestershire will feel really pleased because they're going in now, they've got lunch to decide, haven't they? Rather than maybe a rush decision, they can all probably sit down as a group. I know it's the captain's decision, the coach will be involved, but maybe as a team, if it's a rush decision, you don't know what to do, but this will be a considered decision now.
Yeah.
And we'll have to... What's your gut feeling, Frank?
I think they might come out and have a little bat for an hour or 2. I think I would. I think I might come out and just let Ed Pollock have a hit and see if we can get another. What are they? 2-2. If you get that up to 400,
that's going to
fairly quickly.
An
hour and then an hour's bowling tonight. Anyway, update coming for Hereford and Worcester listeners. Players just leaving the field for lunch, with Worcestershire having just wrapped up the Sussex innings with the penultimate ball of the last over before lunch. Charlie Morris picking up the last wicket, that of George Burrows, LBW, without scoring. So the morning has seen Sussex add exactly 100 runs to their overnight score for the loss of 5 wickets, 2 of those to Dylan Pennington. one to Ed Barnard, that one to Charlie Morris, and a brilliant run out when a direct hit from Dylan Pennington hit the stumps to run out Allsop for 28. Pujara, the key man this morning, 109 he made before he was caught at slip by Pollock off Pennington, all of which means that Worcestershire have a lead of 222 on first innings, and over lunch they have the decision to make about whether or not they'll enforce the follow-on. But a good morning for the Pears.
Which means they beat Gloucestershire by 166.
And
Yes, so he made his
yeah,
first.
you know, I just think that's one option, isn't it? You know, come out and see if we can get another 180 or whatever, and then give the bowlers a little bit of a rest. Or do you send them straight back out there, given that they've all had, you know, quite a few overs in that first innings? We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see.
Just finishing up on George Burrows, Frank.
Yeah.
Just it isn't a loan. It is a 1 month contract. He
Okay.
was released by Lancashire. He was on a
Okay.
2-year deal. and was
Right.
released. So that's the
1
that's the
month
news.
contract. There you go.
Yeah,
That's
that's
it's
the news.
given him a second chance to make it, hasn't it? Really. Just to run through the bowling figures in that Sussex innings finally before we go for a bit of lunch. Joe Leach 17 overs, 5 maidens, 4 for 60. Charlie Morris finished with 17 overs and 5 balls, 8 maidens, 2 for 35. Dylan Pennington 14 overs, 2 maidens, 2 for 43. Josh Baker 15 overs, 3 maidens, no wicket for 48. And Ed Barnard 18 overs, 3 maidens, 1 for 66. A deficit of 222, and will they or will they not enforce the follow-on? We'll let you know when we come back, when we restart at around about 1:40. Until then, thank you for listening, thank you for being with us, and do join us again.
They look absolutely fantastic. I'm really pleased with them because it's clearer photographs of the players now, updated information as well, and some corrections to detail that we knew or didn't know. But it looks really good, and it recognises all of the players now who've played that championship game for us.
you do a drinking motion, obviously, for a drink. Is Leach round the wicket again to the left-handed Haynes, who is out, caught behind by Ben Cox. Joe Leach delighted. Decent catch by Cox, tumbling to his left. Big wicket. Haynes goes, and Leach again provides the breakthrough. Round the wicket to the left-handers, attacking the stumps. That one just outside off stump, and Tom Haynes pushing at it outside edge, and Cox, good catch, yard or two to his left, dives across, and the first wicket is down. Sussex are 17 for 1 in the 5th over.
And I really feel for Tom Haynes, not just because I like him as a young man, who I think is really trying hard to lead the club, but I just kind of feel, do you reach a situation? He's a young cricketer. He's a batsman. He's having to bowl too much. He's having to captain the side. They're getting thumped in the field every week. It must be just so difficult to be. I'm going out batting again with a massive deficit, with all the pressure on his shoulders, and it was always the worry for me at the start of this season, Frank, that there's only so much you can put on a young cricketer. And it's really tough for Tommy. He took over the captaincy of the side in the Championship last year. They lost the first 4 games of the season, then they lost to Nottinghamshire. They escaped with a draw at Derby comfortably in the end, where Tom made a big score. But Sussex always seem to be under pressure at the moment, and it must be really difficult. And Tom has gone. Credit to Joe Leach. Let's take nothing away. Good delivery, good catch.
Yeah, he didn't. I've just watched the replay. Might be a little bit disappointed with himself, Haynes.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
Didn't really get very far forward. Just kind of pushed at it.
So is he? I guess the point I'm making is he having, because of everything else that's going on, is he really having the chance to really concentrate on his batting, which is what he's in the side to do?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, no blame attached to him. He's a fine player.
He is.
Double 100 last week.
Yeah.
Top batsman last year in many ways.
I just feel sorry for him.
Yeah, it's tough. I think, it's a tough time. It's a tough time. It's unusual for a county, I would think, to find themselves in the sort of position that Sussex are this early in a season, in the sense of injuries and so on. So there's difficulty for him. Charlie Morris getting some treatment from the physio now, whatever it was. I think he might have split the webbing in his finger or something.
Well, I think the problem they had, Frank, was that they, all through the winter, they made an announcement early on that Travis Head was coming back and he was going to skipper the side. That was the decision that was made. So Tom wasn't going to be captain. Travis Head makes runs in the Ashes. He now feels very much part of the Australian setup, both in white ball and red ball cricket. He says, also his fiancée or partner is expecting a child. He decides to stay in Australia, which is clearly his prerogative. But all of a sudden, Sussex's plans just go out the window, and then all of a sudden they're thinking, right, we've got to find another overseas, and what's the solution? Was that, as I say, I just feel that Tom has got an awful lot on his shoulders at the moment. He's been named as the interim captain, which was quite interesting wording, but anyway. Repairs to Morris completed. Leach round the wicket into the new batsman is Alsop, and he is out. Caught behind, first ball. Leach has done it again. This is Joe Leach all over. He takes wickets in bursts, in little snatches. We talked about it yesterday, and he's done it again. That's the 3rd time that he's taken a wicket. A batsman has been dismissed first ball, albeit Ali Orr in the first innings was the first ball of the innings, but it's the 2nd time Leach has been on a hat-trick, and it's extraordinary how often he seems to do it. It just seems to be one of those bowlers that gets on a little streak, and that's his 2nd caught behind, and Sussex now are in dire straits, aren't they, at 17 for 2 in the 5th over, and Joe Leach is on the charge. I'm afraid to say Sussex look a pretty demoralised side. I'm watching Tom Alsop wander off. That is to say, that's the 3rd first ball of the innings
of the game.
Of the game. The 3rd Sussex first baller of the game, and Cheteshwar Pujara is coming out, and Sussex has got a long way to go to try and bat this out. Worcestershire were very brave. You know, we said before lunch, and I didn't say it on air, but I think, you know, I said I'd enforce the follow on. I think that was it was the right thing to do for Worcestershire, and certainly at the moment, Pujara is coming out. He's got bags of experience, and he'll under real pressure here, Frank.
Yep. Joe Leach on a hat-trick, Pujara coming out. Probably didn't think he'd be in again quite so soon when he was dismissed this morning. But he's got to start all over again. That wasn't a great delivery. I know it wasn't a bad delivery, but it was nothing. It wasn't a Jaffa. It wasn't anything particularly special. Just a little bit of a tentative push by Alsop and a straightforward catch. Update for FM listeners on BBC Hereford and Worcester coming soon, and those that are following it just with the half-hourly bulletins will be pretty amazed by what they're about to hear, because the follow-on enforced, and Joe Leach has struck twice in 2 balls, 2 for 10 and 17 for 2. Leach on a hat-trick, Pujara the new batsman, 4 slips really, 1, 2, 3 and then a 5th slip, and backward point